And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive. It is Friday, December 1st. I am Josh Engleman. I'm joined by Adam Scherer. We're brought to you by Sleeper. 6-game slate, and we knew that we were waiting on some news. Not only did we get the things that we wanted, but we got one we didn't know we were going to get, and it changed the entire slate. No Luka Doncic tonight. We are going to break that down and more. But first, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow us both on Twitter. We got a different one now, Adam.
Yeah, it's always nice when, one, we get that news and we're not just like speculating on it all show, but also just creates a completely different show than this morning. So that's always nice.
It does. I don't know if I'm happy that Luka's out, considering he was the one guy we were getting to. Don't know what to do with that in this moment, but I don't know. It did create the thing we didn't want, which was just, we know where the value is now.
Yeah, that is true.
But that's fine. We'll do what we can do. Lots to talk about, though. I'm ready to dive in if you are, because this has changed up the game a bit. Everything should look different than what we saw earlier today.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how I managed to not get to Dallas now.
Do you think that's going to be the case?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so either. Let me just flip over one thing. Do you have the time up for the last ownership run? I grabbed one about 45 minutes ago, but if there's been one since then, okay. Then I am going to go and assume that that's the same one. We'll start with Washington. They are 11-point underdogs in Orlando, 238 total. Highest owned guy on Washington is 11% owned Danilo Gallinari. That one has already just started to look a little bit different. 9% to Kuzma, 5% to Gafford. We are getting 23% ownership to Kuzma on FanDuel. But as I look at it right now, Washington looks a lot different. And now we don't have to play things that stink.
Yeah. I'm rerunning my stuff now, but I'm assuming I will not get to as much Washington as I was this morning. Tough matchup with Orlando. You know, you and I talked about it a lot this morning. It's not a terrible game environment in the sense that both of these teams play at relatively fast paces. Washington just flat out fast, and Orlando fast enough. But Orlando is a very efficient defense. Washington's implied total is higher than most teams on this slate. It's quite a bit behind a couple of teams, but this morning, it was creating a situation where I was getting over the field on pretty much all of the main Washington guys, just because outside of Gallo, nobody was really getting ownership. And I didn't think Washington looked a lot worse than other places on the slate. That's still the case, except now you just have Dallas, where so many guys look like the clear top plays at their respective prices or positions. So if you're getting to some Kuzma, I still think that's fine. We have him with an 11% chance of being optimal, 9% ownership, $8,500 price tag. So he's sandwiched. Or he's right around just below Julius Randle. You don't have Wemby in that price range anymore, but still going to be difficult to prioritize. Same goes for Gafford at 5,500. Clearly has a ceiling. Avdija has been arguably the best player on the team this year. 6,400, 1% owned. Any of those guys as your last piece in a tournament lineup to be contrarian are perfectly fine, but it's very, very difficult to build around them as any sort of priority. And then you get to Gallo, who this morning was one of the most popular value plays. Now he's just a value play. Generally, you're getting 17 to 18 minutes. You're getting a little over a fantasy point per minute. Again, it's not a great matchup, but there is risk too in that he only played 11 and a half minutes in their last game. It's not like he's guaranteed to play 18, and he's pretty much never playing more than like 20. So, you know, the minutes volatility, at least in the good direction, isn't really there. And now at this point, you know, with the Dallas value, 3,600 Gallo is a reasonable value play, but it's certainly not the same level of priority that it was this morning.
I had something I wanted to say there, and now I don't remember what it was. That's really annoying. Oh, you mentioned Denny being the best player on the Wizards. Denny Avdija, plus 0.5 EPM. That is the high mark of anybody relevant for the Wizards. 0.4 to Kuzma, 0.1 to Gafford. Everyone else in the negatives.
Yeah.
So, you know, you aren't wrong. You aren't wrong. I like Denny. I've been a fan. So I don't want to besmirch Denny Avdija right here.
Kuzma, 91st percentile in offensive EPM.
Yeah, he's having a great year. Like, to try to salvage plus 2.4. He's trying to do as much as he can with whatever he's getting here. Got to get him out of Washington. Get him on a contender. If he's like the fifth guy, you know, I think that would be a good role for him. Fourth guy, maybe. Anyway, or just get paid, hang out in DC, be a millionaire, maybe not care at all. Who knows?
Yeah,
Who
it's
knows?
not the worst life.
No, it's not. The Orlando Magic on the opposite side, they get the benefit of the awesome matchup. The Wizards are 29th in defensive rating, second in pace. This is just a fantastic spot. 16% ownership coming into Franz Wagner, 10 to Jalen Suggs, 12 to Paolo Banchero. Even these guys have been redistributed now that we've gotten the Mavs news. How are you feeling about Orlando? Are you getting Orlando now in comparison to before?
Still trying to find the answer to that, but I think it's likely that I do, because this morning you were just getting like 20% ownership across the board on Orlando, and it was a situation where they looked very good. The matchup's really good, but from a range of outcome standpoint, they weren't that much better than other options you could get to. Now they're kind of contrarian pieces. 16% ownership coming into Franz Wagner, 12% coming into Banchero on DraftKings. Suggs at 6,200 is getting 10%. Cole Anthony's down to 7, Batadze's at 5. Now you kind of can play relatively low owned guys in a great spot against the Wizards. So I think that does make them look a little bit more interesting to me, and probably a little bit easier to get over the field on some of them.
Yeah, I'm hoping I still get to a bunch of these guys as this moves around. Like 12% Banchero, I like. 10% Suggs, I like. Franz Wagner, I like. I did come down a bit on my Jalen Suggs projection from what I had earlier today. Took a deep dive. On these smaller slates, I try to really be thorough for the teams, since you're unlocking more dudes. These are the days that I tend to like micromanage each guy. On a 12-game slate, I don't feel like I need to get like Gary Harris's assist rate all that correct. So I did end up bringing Suggs down a little bit, but I have Banchero grading out as the best option, Franz a close second, and then Goga and Suggs just sort of chilling in this like third tier for me.
Yeah. I love people's opinions on cities. If I was a millionaire, it wouldn't be in DC. Like DC is
Why?
such a draw for rich people. Like
Yeah.
it's not Miami or some or New York, but like there's so many rich people in DC.
Yeah. I would be in all of the cities. That's like
Right.
most of them are going to have really awesome sections for people that have insane wealth. It's going to be a good time. I'm quite confident in it.
Like I get it when you say like if I was a millionaire, I wouldn't want to live in Baltimore. Like I like Baltimore, but
Yeah.
part of the reason I like Baltimore is that it's like blue collar and there's it doesn't really feel like a city. Like DC is not.
No. I haven't been in a bit. Probably need to traipse around a little bit. Get up there for like a Nats game or something. Certainly not going to go up there and go to a Wizards game. Jesus. Like, I'd be better off going to watch the Mystics. I'm just kidding. I would never watch the Mystics. Anything else you want to touch on for the Orlando Magic here? We kind of it's weird. This game, like, dramatically changed since this morning, but nothing changed in this game.
Right. It's just that the whole slate looks different now because of Luka. If the slate were starting right now, I would be getting to not a lot of Orlando still. 9% Franz would be my highest owned guy. 7% on Goga, 6 on Banchero, 3 on Anthony, 2 on Isaac. Not really getting much there. Washington, holy shit. I would have 40% Kuzma. So there's that.
Okay.
14% Gafford. Base one out of 150 Gallo. So might be taking a big Kuzma stand tonight, which I don't hate.
No. How much you have of Banchero in comparison to Kuzma? Because those are two guys that are like basically right next to each other with the exact same eligibilities.
I have 6% Banchero.
Okay. How do you feel about that ratio between the two?
I don't really like it because I have them projected about the same.
That's what I was going to say.
And
like these two guys are like the same dude today.
Yeah, the ownership's about the same. The projection's about the same. I'm not entirely sure why Kuzma's the one that's just like getting pushed in everywhere.
Yeah. It's it was something I noticed earlier today. I was just like, like I'm really curious. I even said it on the process show. Like, I'm really curious to see what the relationship between Banchero and Kuzma ends up being from an ownership perspective, because I don't think these guys are all that different from each other. And, you're seeing it at least as a difference in getting to Kuzma. I'm running my stuff now, so I'll find out in a little bit, and I'll report back when we get to it. But interesting dynamic. Actually, let me look and see where I have them. So I have Banchero at 42.8. And I have Kuzma at 39.7. So I am assuming that I get to a bit more Paolo Banchero than to Kyle Kuzma. But, maybe that 12-9 ownership ratio matters. Maybe it doesn't matter at all, and I don't get either of them. I have no idea, but we're going to find out imminently. Actually, we just found out right now. We sort these lineups. All right. Kyle Kuzma is currently in 6% of my lineups, and Paolo Banchero is in 28. So you and I have flip-flopped them.
Yeah, I would like to be evening that out for sure. But
yeah,
it's not that I mind 40% Kuzma. It's just if I'm going to play 46% combined between Kuzma and Banchero, I'd rather be like 2.5x the field on both than just aggressively choosing Kuzma.
Yeah, there's no difference between the two. Do you think there's like I don't want to say correct, but like, what's the best way to describe this? Like, there's obviously value in taking that stand. Do you think it really matters, or is it just like a testament to everything else you're doing?
What do you mean?
Like, in the grand scheme of things, like, do you think it matters if let's just say these, like, instead of going 20-20, you're 40-0 either direction. Do you think it actually matters all that much at this point? Or is that just like a personal preference thing?
I still don't understand what you're asking.
Like, now we don't really care what the exposures are. Like, assuming you're just selecting positive ROI lineups, you're getting whatever you're getting.
Right.
That you saying that you would like, 20-20 instead of 40-0. That's just like for your mental sweating of the games, right?
It's because functionally I think they're the same play. And so it doesn't really matter, I guess, because like you can make the argument if I have 40% Kuzma, at least if Kuzma's the one that wins out between the two of them, I have a lot of Kuzma lineups.
Yeah.
And so I'm just, hoping it's a Kuzma day. In my head, it kind of just feels like even more volatility because not only am I just taking a stand on this price range and position where nobody else really is, but now I'm trying to guess who the right guy is too. But, you can make that argument either way because it's not like I'm playing identical lineups and then just it's not if I went 20-20, it's not like I'm playing the same lineup and then it's just Banchero here, Kuzma there. Like right. There's still that volatility where now I need Kuzma in the right lineups and not Banchero if Kuzma's the one that goes off. So yeah, it doesn't really matter. It's more when I look at it, I just don't really understand why it's happening.
Right now, I got my run done. I have 13% Gallo, 6% Kuzma, still scattered amounts of Washington. I have 28% Paolo Banchero, 19% Franz, and then scattered amounts of the rest of Orlando, about 7% of Anthony, Goga, Suggs, etc. I hate that this is the 7:00 game. I don't want to watch this game for 20 minutes until Philly Boston comes on. All right, I got nothing else for this one, so I think that we can keep it moving. We're going to talk schedule for the rest of the day, which is very simple. NBA Live Before Lock is coming up next. Stay on this stream. You don't have to go anywhere. The only thing that you actually have to do is hit the like button. We want to run that number. We want to try to get to 500 before we turn this one over to the Live Before Lock crew. We also want you guys to grab our avatar so that you have the opportunity to join the Stochastic Hall of Fame. If you go to stokastic.com/avatar, download our logo, load that bad boy up on DraftKings or FanDuel, wherever you're playing. But DK and FanDuel are going to be your main options. Yahoo too, I guess. Owner's Box as well. If you finish in the top 3 of a contest with 5,000 or more entries, you will get 1 free month of whatever stochastic package you're looking for. It's like a $200 value. Come in, check the Sims out, hop in the Discord, get all the data on the website. You get to do all of that. All you have to do is tweet that win, show off that logo at Stochastic HOF. Bring yourself in to the Stochastic Hall of Fame family. Adam, did you tweet that and get your free month?
I forgot, but I'll get on that.
That's good. That's good. You don't have to pay the $200 this month. Let's get on to the game number 2 here. Philadelphia 76ers, 6.5-point underdogs in Boston, 224 total. For the Sixers side of this one, pulling up the injury report right now. We'll be getting another one in about 14 minutes, but for now, we're working off the 4 p.m. injury report. Nick Batum probable, Jaden Springer probable, Joel Embiid questionable, illness, which is good. Like, It's not a, we're trying to find out if his foot feels good in warmups or anything
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
not like he was a surprise scratch last time because like he tweaked his knee and now we're playing that game.
Yeah. So illness helps. No Daniel House, no Kelly Oubre. As I look at Philly, I see this as a very, very tough spot to really want to get to Philly. I will take any Joel Embiid that I can get to, but this is the number 2 defense in the league. If you want to discount that a little bit for Kristaps Porzingis being out, feel free. It's not a lot. They are 25th in pace, so this is a good D, a slow team. 7% ownership is the high mark to Joel Embiid on DraftKings. No one else is above that other than Tobias Harris for 9 on FanDuel. I got to 8 of Embiid. I have 2 shares of Nick Batum. It's just a really bad spot.
Agreed. It's really, really tough to like this game, especially the Philly side. I just reran everything again to. Okay, so I'm still getting 31% Kuzma, but now I have 17% Banchero. That's a little better. But as far as Philly goes, I'm getting to 8% Embiid, and that's about it. I have 1% Maxey, 1% Batum. Batum's another one that this morning I was getting a good amount of. I was like 2 or 3x the field. It was like, well, I'm not confident in him, but there's not really value. And then now there is value. So it becomes really difficult to get here. I'm basically just around the field because I'm around the field on Embiid and he's the only dude getting ownership on this team.
Yeah, and I just don't see it. Now, if we lose Embiid, Marcus Morris is $3,800 small forward, power forward, even though he'd start at center. Paul Reed is a $4,700 center. Who is the best play on Philadelphia if Joel Embiid is out?
Maxey.
Probably.
Harris.
So hard to get to Maxey at 9,400, even with
I
that
think they're
giant
all.
bump.
It's really hard to answer that because, like, the prices are still relatively high. So, like, Maxey, Harris certainly took on a bigger offensive role. DeAnthony Melton's going to look better, but at their respective salaries, I think they look good if Embiid's out. But I don't think there's one that you're looking at as like a glaring misprice. And then you look at the value pieces and the playing time there. Your guess is as good as mine. I mean, Marcus Morris, 3,800, got the start last game, but even if he starts again, there's obviously no guarantee he's in the closing lineup. There's plenty of interchangeable pieces here. Covington played like 10 minutes in the first half, played a ton in the second half, but that's after Batum got hurt. So, who knows what his minutes look like. Paul Reed at 4,700 did still play 27 minutes in that game, even though he didn't start. You could probably make a case for him being the best play if Embiid's out, but he's center only, so that's still kind of tough. I think everybody kind of just like takes a step up, but I don't think that there's any one guy that suddenly becomes like can't miss, in part because the matchup still absolutely sucks.
Yeah. And for everybody mentioning Embiid not being at shoot around, I would never expect him to be at shoot around if he's sick in any way. Like, that's just the one where you're going to stay home at the hotel and not just come cough all over top of the rest of your teammates. So that one concerns me a little bit less. If you've got an illness, I'm just never going to expect you to be there.
Yeah, it's different to me. Like, again, if it was like a knee thing and it was like, oh, Embiid wasn't at shoot around, then it's like, okay, he physically probably couldn't go through shoot around. But with an illness, like, why would he be?
Yeah, there's especially for Joel Embiid, like he'll be fine. Right. Doesn't mean that he could just as easily sit. I don't have a lean for any of this.
Right. To me, with an illness, shoot around doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, well, I shouldn't say that. If he was at shoot around, I'd be pretty confident he was going to play.
Same.
Missing shoot around, I don't really put any stock in.
No, not for an illness. I just assume they're like, yo, go get fluids, go get an IV, lay in your bed. We want you to be ready for Boston, not ready for...
So, like, now chat's misunderstanding you. Like, the point here is that there's nothing to gain from Joel Embiid being at shoot around if he's sick. Joel Embiid going to shoot around is not going to affect his performance tonight. You don't need to figure out if he can physically play. Like, if he's not feeling well, just get more fluids, stay home, and then come to the game. Like, and then like what you were saying of being around people, like obviously the less time he's around the team, the less likely they are to get sick. But it's not like that's the sort. There's nothing to gain from him being there.
Nope, not at all. Not at all. So we'll see how this ends up looking. I hope he plays. That's all I can say. I do not expect Joel Embiid to have limited minutes because of the illness. That much I'm confident in. But
what if Monty McNair thinks so?
Yeah, I unfortunately, maybe I'll have to. Adam, you know what we're gonna have to do, right?
Yeah, DM our buddy Daryl.
Yeah, I'm going to DM Daryl Morey in a bit, see if he could let us know what's going on. Because, hey, we have sources in Philadelphia. Boots on the ground. That's going to make a difference, I'm sure. I'm sure. That's good thinking. Let's go to the Boston side. 10% ownership to Drew, 10% ownership to Tatum, 10% ownership to Brown, 5 to Derek White, 4 to Al Horford. If you guys need me to say that one, you shouldn't. Any one of those guys works for me. I'm right around the field on the Brown, Tatum, Drew Holiday trio, but I don't think anybody separates from the pack.
Yeah, that's how I see it too. 12% Tatum for me now. So that's different than this morning just because he's easier to get to. That's pretty much exactly in line with the field. 7% Drew, 4% Jaylen Brown. I have like a Al Horford lineup. So yeah, not getting anything crazy here. Tatum was my highest owned guy, which is perfectly fine. 10,100 small forward, power forward. So the opportunity cost at the position isn't quite as high as when you're talking about pay up centers or point guards, which is nice. But overall, not a really easy game to get to.
No,
assuming Embiid's in.
Yeah. And then if he's not in, this line moves to 10 plus, and Boston's certainly going to look a little bit better, but not by much. I got nothing else here.
Me neither.
The Memphis Grizzlies, 7-point underdogs in Dallas, 226 total. This is the one that we've got to talk about now. Things are different than what we had earlier. On the Memphis side, pretty standard. 35% ownership now to Derrick Rose. We've cut that bad boy in half. 15 to Bane, 10 to Jackson. Jalen Noel down to a crisp 2. So crisis averted there.
Yeah.
I got 3%. What are you doing now with Derrick Rose?
I am playing 31%. So I am still right around the field. This morning I was around the field when he was 50 or 60%. Now I'm around the field at 30%. Still looks good, assuming he starts. Played 27 minutes last game. I still think that would be an aggressive projection, but knowing that he did it is nice. I think expecting 24, 25 minutes on average if he starts is very reasonable. Dallas hasn't been a good defensive team this year. They have played at a relatively fast pace. I don't think Luka being out is going to change either of those things. So Rose looks good, assuming he's in the starting lineup. I'm only getting to 11% Bane. I was getting a lot more of him this morning. I'm a little under the field there, which I don't love, but still getting to him. He looks good. Shooting guard, small forward, 8,700. We've seen an assist bump from him without Marcus Smart. Clearly, Morant's out, and that helps as well. And he's also just a really good player. So where you can get to Bane, I do think he looks good. I would guess that some of my Kuzma and Banchero is because they are lower owned versions of Bane. But yeah, he's my second highest owned guy here. I'm getting to 8% Jaren Jackson. Those are the only 3 I have. Those are the only 3 the field's getting to.
I think we're on the same page here. I have minimal. Wait, how much Rose did you say you had?
31.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're a little bit higher on Rose, but I'm right there with Bane and Jackson for the field. Just not a ton. Next game's going to be a little bit different, though. This is the one that we did not break down earlier today. Well, but when we did, we were like, oh, we really like Luka Doncic, and we're getting to a bunch of him. Well, Luka Doncic is not playing tonight, nor is Dante Exum. Adam, do you want to hypothesize why they are both out for personal reasons?
So my original conclusion was that we had a Arenas Crittenton situation in the locker room where they both pulled guns on each other.
I like guns too.
I've I've since learned that Luka had a child, so now I don't know if Exum maybe there's some Jerry Springer shit going on there, but Luka had a kid.
Australian.
Yeah, Luka had a kid. I don't know what Exum's deal is.
Maybe they're in a throuple.
Yeah,
and they're both going to support this woman. Maybe that's what's going on. Well, we are going to be supporting the Dallas Mavericks tonight. Here are the ownership numbers for the Dallas Mavericks right now. 40% to Derek Lively, 40% to Derek Jones Jr., 20 to Grant Williams, 60 to Jaden Hardy, 70 to Josh Green, 60 to Kyrie Irving, 20 to Seth Curry, flat min 3K point guard shooting guard, and 35 to Tim Hardaway. I have 3 of these guys in the 80s. Care to guess?
Hardy, Green, Kyrie.
Gets it.
Because those are the 3 I have in the 90s.
Look, I think for Kyrie, 9,100, he's just on a different planet for that price tag. And Josh Green feels I don't like, he's not good per minute, but like that feels like the easiest one. Hardy scares me.
Kyrie on FanDuel, 8,300.
He he's by the way, Kyrie on FanDuel projected for 82% ownership.
Yeah, and at that ownership projection, when I did the lineup generator video earlier, he was still in like every single lineup on FanDuel that I got.
Yeah.
And there's just nothing wrong with that. It's a broken price there. He was a very good play on FanDuel with Luka in. So just a completely broken price tag there. But he looks really good regardless. Without Luka on the floor this year, 37.5% assist percentage. That's up from around 25% when Luka's out there. Usage rate jumps a couple points as well. Per minute production goes from 1.26 DraftKings points per minute to 1.48. If you are, for whatever reason, looking for a reason to get away from Kyrie, I think the case is simply that he's a guard and he's around 9K. So like there are other guys you can get to, but this is a different situation than we've had a lot of the recent slates where I've been playing pretty contrarian. And the reason has been, yes, these guys are good, but they're like 2 points better than the guys around them. Kyrie is not 2 points better than Kyrie Maxey in terms of projection today or any other 9K guy around him. He looks just completely different. So I'm getting a ton of him. I have 93% right now on DraftKings. I assume if I were playing FanDuel, I'd have 100. I have 94% Josh Green and I have 95% Jaden Hardy. The problem, I guess, or good thing here, however you want to look at it, they're just so cheap. Like I don't have any confidence in Josh Green because he's not a very good fantasy producer, but without Luka on the floor this year, he's at 0.72 DraftKings points per minute in 152 minutes. There's more playing time to go around now as well. Josh Green can play in multiple variations of lineups. It's not like he's locked into one way that it goes. Jaden Hardy, like you said, it's kind of concerning. We don't know exactly how many minutes he's going to play, but he's 3,300 and he's a good point per minute guy. Even if you just give him around, 18 minutes or so, he's going to project around 20 DraftKings points at 3,300. So he's going to look really good. And then the rest of the team obviously looks good too. But those are the three that I'm getting a ton of. I have 43% Grant Williams. I have 41% Derek Lively, 38% Derek Jones Jr., 25% Tim Hardaway, 13% Seth Curry. I'm getting to every reasonable player on this team.
50 Lively, 25 Jones, 20 Grant Williams, 80, 80, 80 for that trio that we talked about, 7 Curry and 28 Hardaway. Yeah, like I have it all.
Yeah, I don't know how to get away from it.
Do we want to talk about the relationship between Curry and Hardy?
Sure.
62% ownership to Hardy, 20 to Curry. Is there something there, or should we just not have a lot of confidence in Seth Curry right now?
I don't have much confidence in Curry. The thing that I think is difficult is that Hardy's the better point per minute guy.
Yeah.
You have 70 minutes this year without Luka on the floor for Hardy. He's at 1.08 DraftKings points per minute. Curry's at 0.83. It's not that Curry's bad, but this conversation would be a lot more interesting if like Jaden Hardy produced like Josh Green does. So like the industry assumption would be that Hardy plays more minutes than Curry, but you have to be right about that because he's a worse point per minute guy. But that's not the case here. You can be wrong about your projection. Curry can play more minutes than Hardy, and Hardy just beats him anyway because he's a much better fantasy guy.
Yeah, that's the way that I was looking at it as well. Because when I first saw it, I was just like, oh, 2 guards off the bench, maybe. Like, I don't know who's going to start here. What's your expectation for the starting lineup? Kyrie, Josh Green, Derek Jones Jr., Grant Williams, Lively?
Probably.
Yeah.
If they were to start Seth, then clearly you're giving him a minutes bump.
Yeah, if one of him or Hardy are starting today, like then you feel much more confident about whoever the hell that one is.
Right. Yeah, I mean they could go to Hardaway too.
They could. I always feel like he's just stuck in that role of like the first guy off the bench.
I think they started him a good amount last year when guys were out though.
I don't know. I mean, shooting guard, small forward, 5,500. You get him up to 30, 32 minutes, and all of a sudden he starts becoming a real issue too.
Yeah. The starting lineup the last time that Kyrie was out was Luka, Green, Jones, Williams, Lively. So what you just said, except Kyrie instead of Luka.
Yeah. Now that's obviously it's a different defensive setup when you have, Luka has some actual size. Kyrie is not guarding bigger dudes.
But neither is Seth and neither is Hardy.
No, Seth Curry is a wisp. That's not going to happen.
Tyrese Maxey is questionable now with an illness.
See, that's why you keep Joel Embiid away from these people. Oh man. Okay, so that's Jaden Springer season, Pat Bev season. What happens if we lose Tyrese Maxey?
The Anthony Melton. They just get smacked.
It's not really Melton though, is it? I mean, like he's getting another minute and picking up some ball handling duties and stuff, but like somebody's about to grab. I mean, Maxey's playing 38 minutes a night. Somebody's about to grab a shit ton.
Yeah, I was thinking from an offensive standpoint.
Yeah. He was feeling under the weather and will be reevaluated at the arena soon.
Yeah.
What are they going to tell him? He's either going to be like, yo, I don't want to play because I feel sick or not. Like nobody's telling him if he's sick.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Beverly, I assume would start.
I could see
like, I don't know what else.
Yeah.
What else?
Springer.
Yeah. Melton as the point.
Yeah. Well, Philly's going to become really. It's going to be really interesting when Maxey sits and Embiid plays.
God, Embiid will look good for the 20 minutes he's out there until the game. Before it's a 80-point game.
But they're going to be limiting him from his sickness.
Sure. Yeah.
Joel Embiid's going to play. They're going to play him, but he's going to play 16 minutes because he's sick. Or that's not how it plays out. Anything else? Do you have any? I know the answer now, but like any qualms with the way that you would be building out Dallas lineups? Like, do you care who's in it? Do you care how many of them you have or anything at this point?
No.
Yeah, same.
My number one lineup right now has 5 guys from Dallas.
Okay. So does mine.
Yeah. It's 4 of the starters and Hardy.
Yep.
Yeah. Out of my 100.
Who are your other 3? It's not going to be the same as mine. I know that for a fact.
Joe Val, Barnes, Durant.
Okay, I've got Ingram, Siakam, Collins.
Yeah. Like this is when I was saying this morning that these are the kind of slates I like, where value is really ugly and everything's ugly. It's turned into the slate that I hate, where everybody's just playing 3v3, 4v4 for 100K against 25,000 people.
Yes. It's not fun.
37% of my lineups. No, I'm sorry. 44% of my lineups have 5 guys from Dallas. 38% have 4. 13% have 3. None have 2.
Do you have one with 1 or without any?
I don't even have any that don't have 2.
I assume that I don't either, but I figured I'd ask anyway. That's just wild, dude. It's just so wild. Anything else you think we should say here?
Oh, wait, no, never mind. So I have 8 that have less than 3. None of them have 2. So I have 8 that have either 1 or 0.
Okay. Anything else you think we should touch on here?
I don't know. I might have just added wrong. No, I don't.
Oh, I do have one extra thing that we need to talk about here that we didn't mention before. Tim Hardaway is still questionable for tonight.
Yeah.
If that happens, I feel a lot better about Jaden Hardy for sure. I think Derek Jones Jr. goes from 30% owned to 50 because I think he's just playing like 30 minutes at that point. I don't know if anybody else takes like a giant jump forward.
So here's what we can talk about too. The last game Dallas played where Kyrie was out and Luka was in, neither one of Hardy or Curry really played much outside of garbage time.
Wait, say that again. Who was out?
Kyrie was out, Luka was in. Yeah. Now Dante Exum was also in, but like in the first so Curry ended up playing 20 minutes in that game, but he played the final 14 of what was like a semi blowout where he also was just playing good. In the first half, Curry played 5.5 minutes. Hardy played 2.5 minutes. Exum played 5.5 minutes. They had Dwight Powell. He only played 4 minutes. Like they ran a really, really condensed rotation where all of the backups barely played in the first half. In the second half, you got a little bit more.
Sure.
Because Lively didn't play the fourth.
Could see it. We could see it. The Hardaway news is oddly important because I think that really just ups your confidence level for all these.
If Hardaway is out, they're just out of bodies.
Yep, exactly. They might like roll the dice on some Omax Prosper or something, but It's not going to be much after that.
Prosper played 5.5 minutes in that first half too.
Yeah. I think we're going to need Hardaway out for him to be relevant.
The previous time to that Kyrie was out, because we haven't had any non-Luka games this year. November 1st, Dallas played against Chicago. We got the same starting lineup. Hardy played 2.5 minutes in the first half. He played 14 minutes in the game. Curry played 12.5 minutes in the game. Exum only played 10. Kleba played 4. Powell didn't play. They've actually just run really condensed rotations with Jones, Doncic, Williams, Lively, Green, and Hardaway in these situations without Kyrie.
I'm not as surprised by that, because I think filling the Kyrie spot when Luka is out, or when he is out, is like unimportant to Dallas, as weird as it sounds. Like, they can put anybody else on the floor at basically at any position 1 through 4. Whereas with Luka, it's a little bit different because of the defensive assignments.
Right.
So I'm curious which direction that would end up going.
But like, is Hardy or Curry doing anything to help that?
No. It makes me nervous for someone like Seth Curry. I think one of those two guys is going to play like 24 minutes, because I think they have to, just from like a creation standpoint, in the minutes that Kyrie isn't on the floor. But I think they're more likely to go to size here. Increases to Hardaway if he can play. Big increases to Derek Jones. Maybe they go to Omax Prosper in more minutes than you would expect, than what we're getting from what would be the opposite here.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still going to end up playing a bunch of them because they're so cheap, and like the upside.
Yeah.
But like, God, this has the potential to. You have the potential to feel like an absolute idiot playing a guy that plays like 12 minutes at 70% owned.
Yeah. Yeah, we are very, very live for that to happen. Going to be fun. Anything else for the Mavs?
No.
Well, then let's get into this bad boy.
Sleeper. To clarify, for JF said Kyrie is out. No, Luka is out. Kyrie is in. But the only games we have this year where one of them has been out have been when Kyrie was out.
Sleeper is your sponsor for today. We had a free square earlier. That was going to be for Luka Doncic. All you had to do was go over 0.5 points. Well, that one's in the trash now. He's not going to go over that. But now you can get it for Zion Williamson. The free square is set at 0.5 points. So you can use that free square right out of the gate, and you can sign up using the link in the description, get up to $100 as a first match deposit bonus. You could also get 100x payouts. They have dynamic payouts. So this one is a little bit different. It's not even action on both sides like you would see at a Prize Picks, for example. There's going to be a live multiplier on either side. So you can get to some juiced up props if you're looking for them at Sleeper, which will allow you to get all the way up to 100x payouts. Now, the minimum deposit is going to be $20, but I think you should put in 100 to get 100 and then take advantage of that free square. Anytime you could use these free squares. I know the amount that you could put down on these types of things are usually reduced. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. This is just basically free money. You are creating a situation where your odds of winning are significantly better. You're increasing the amount of money that you have the potential to win just because of using this. Don't ever let them go. Use the free squares. Sign up using the deposit match link in either chat or the description, and come join us at Sleeper. Oddshopper could help you out there as well.
Are you done?
I am done.
We had 4 games last year where Luka was out, Kyrie was in. The most recent was March 20th. Jaden Hardy played 19 minutes off the bench.
Okay.
He only played 5 minutes in the first half. They basically cut Dwight Powell. Dwight Powell started the second half, but played an abbreviated stint, didn't really come back. And then Ntilikina had played 7 minutes in the first half. He didn't play the second half. So Hardy played a lot more in the second half. But again, you didn't really get much there. The 17th of March, he played 6 minutes in a game against the Lakers, where Justin Holiday played 16 minutes off the bench. So Christian Wood played 34 in that game. So that's a difference. Like, you don't have Christian Wood this year.
Yeah. That's a big difference, actually.
Yeah, but I'm saying like I still am not convinced that these guys actually have to play a lot.
Okay, so let's do this. This is going to be the final thing for Dallas, and then we'll keep it moving because we won't be talking too much about some of these teams. Who are you confident in for Dallas from a playing time perspective? Derek Lively, yes.
The starters and Hardaway.
Yeah. Lively, Williams, Josh Green, assuming he's continuing to start, Kyrie Irving, Tim Hardaway.
Yeah, those 6 guys. And I would say Lively is probably the last one, just because he did lose minutes in that Washington game where they just started going small. You saw that with Powell last year, too, in one of these non-Luka games. But yeah, the starting 5 plus Hardaway is where I'm confident in the playing time, because what we've seen both last year, for the most part, and this year when Kyrie was out, is the starters plus Hardaway played really condensed minutes.
Yeah. Lively, Grant Williams, Kyrie Irving, Josh Green, Hardaway. And Derek, add Jones. I think it's 6.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Okay, I didn't hear that. My bad.
Yeah, starting 5 plus Hardaway.
Okay, so I did it in reverse and missed Jones. All right, let's keep this one moving then. New York Knicks, not a ton to say here. 2.5-point dogs in Toronto. Let me scoot on over to the 5 p.m. injury report. Not that it's going to make much of a difference here. Everybody that's normally available for Toronto is on the Knicks side. Julius Randle, questionable. I must have missed that earlier.
Yeah, it came out this afternoon.
Okay. Yeah, I must have missed that one earlier. I don't remember seeing it. That will have giant ripple effects if that happens to shake out. But for now, he is the highest owned guy on the Knicks at 10%. You can get to 13% Jalen Brunson on FanDuel. I have 1 share of Mitchell Robinson. And if I'm going to get anybody, I hope it's Mitchell Robinson, because apparently he's a very good guy.
Yeah. I have 2% Brunson, 2% Randall, 1% Robinson. So this team is pretty much the opposite of Dallas. I am not really getting to anything, and I don't really expect that to change unless Randall gets ruled out. You know, that will certainly make Brunson look better, Barrett look better, Quickly and Hart look better. But with him in, I have a really hard time getting here in what should be a pretty slow-paced game.
Let's say Julius Randle is out. Who do you think starts? Hart?
Hart.
Yeah. I don't really think there's any alternative. This would have been a time where we just jam in Obi Toppin, but I don't think that's the case. The real tricky thing for me is, do they go to another 4-sized guy? Because I don't really know who that would be.
I was going to ask if they had one.
Because normally it's Miles McBride. Miles McBride gets 12 minutes when anybody is ever out. He just is like the next guy in line. Sims is still on the team. That helps.
This year it's been like it's been harder DiVincenzo.
Yeah. So, yeah, maybe it's Jericho Sims for a little bit. Has he even played? No. Yes, he did.
I assume they just go hard.
He's got a bunch of garbage run. Yeah, but I think like you'll see like an 8-minute run of somebody random.
Yeah, and I mean, Toronto is a big front court too.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just everybody incrementally gets better. That's really the easiest way to say it for the Knicks. But if he's in, you're probably not playing the Knicks.
Agreed.
With any sort of volume. Toronto's not all that different for me. Remember, matchup against the Knicks is terrible. Good defense, slow team. 15% ownership coming into Jake Puddle. Around 10 for Scotty Barnes and Pascal Siakam. Just shy of that for OG Anunoby. By the way, down to 9% OG Anunoby. Whew. Now's the day he smashes, but we'll see that coming. I'm happy with really like any one of the starters for Toronto, although I don't have much of Schroeder.
Yeah, that's where I'm at now too. I was getting a lot this morning, but obviously that's changed with guards opening up from Dallas. 15% Siakam for me is the high guy. He's getting 13% ownership. I have 9% Pirtle, 7% Anunoby, 7% Barnes, only 2% Schroeder. Again, Schroeder kind of just getting squeezed out because Kyrie's taking guard spots, Hardy's taking guard spots, and then I'm mixing in whatever other guards. If I were to grow a pair and really cut back my Jaden Hardy, then I probably start getting to more Schroeder, because that would force me into more balanced builds, whereas everybody else is jamming in Hardy and Curry. I doubt that I'm going to do that. I'm probably going to just end up playing Hardy and then hating myself when he does exactly what I said he's done every other time. But
smart.
Schroeder would be the type of guy that starts to show up more if you did cut back Hardy.
Okay. Yeah, I've got 13% Siakam, 12 of Jakob Poeltl, 9 of Anunoby, 5 of Barnes. Just give me scattered amounts of this, but 216 total. This is the lowest total on today's slate. I assume the Knicks have the lowest total of anybody. San Antonio can get kind of close just because the line is huge, but there's also a 20-point total that's bigger. None of it looks good.
It does
None
not.
of it looks good. So then, final thing that I got to talk to you guys about. This one's easy, actually. We've made some changes in the Odd Shopper streets. And if you haven't been aware of it, if you haven't messed around on Odd Shopper as of late, you got to check it out now. If you're on the sports betting side, or even if you're in the pick'em streets, we've cut the price dramatically and we've added additional information for you. So you get to use the market-based approach to sports betting and to pick'em sites where we're aggregating all of the lines that we have. We're creating a smart line. We're giving you guys expected value rates, expected win rates. You're shopping around for the best lines across multiple books, or you're using calculators to give you the best prize picks plays or underdog plays, things like that. But now you're getting it at a much cheaper price tag. You could also hop into the Discord, hang out with all of the experts, get some additional picks from guys like Ben Raza out there betting on fifth league Moldovan soccer stuff. If you want to try to tail that kind of thing, Ben is going to be your man in Discord. Hit him up. Crazy. You get Eitan being crazy. You get Eric giving you out NBA picks every single day for every single game. We got a lot going on in the Odd Shopper streets, and it's getting bigger and bigger as we go. We just hit 100,000 subscribers on YouTube for Odd Shopper. So if you're not subscribed yet, head on over to the Odd Shopper YouTube channel and go ahead and check out the content that we've got coming in. It's a lot. It's a lot. All right. You ready to close this out with the final two games?
Yep.
San Antonio Spurs, 13-point dogs in New Orleans, 237. Total, that is. We did get the news earlier today. We don't have any Wemby. We also don't have Doug McDermott. Did you see anything about who they're going to start?
No, my guess is Champagny, but I don't know.
Same. 12% ownership coming into Jeremy Sohan, 15 to Zach Collins, single digits across the board for everybody else. I'm not super worried about this team right now. It's not really freeing anybody up. I got 20% of Sohan. I don't have any Collins, although I wouldn't mind it. I don't know if this created anything.
Yeah, Collins is the one I'm getting right now. I have 14%. So does the field. I'm not getting much of anything else. 4% Vassell, 3% apiece on Chetty and Sohan, 2% on Branham. I would like to be getting some Keldon Johnson at 7,500, but I think this is just another example, like I was just saying with Schroeder, where if you were to just decide you're not going to play Hardy and Curry and take that value and go more balanced, then those guys would start popping up more. But the roster construction that's going to be most popular tonight is just not really leaving you a lot for those guys.
Yeah.
Especially like in my case where I'm playing Kuzma and Banchero. Now I'm really running out of spots for those guys.
Yeah, I just don't see it. And like, even if you like, if we randomly got Vassell starting, I think you're only really giving him like 2 or 3 more minutes. He just becomes like solid at best. A lot of these guys are just already priced up from like people just being out recently, Vassell being out for giant chunks of time. Like Champagne's already 4,900. There's not a lot left to do with that if he's going to get 26 minutes, you know?
Yep. And 202 minutes this year for Keldon without Wembanyama. Still 24% usage rate, 1.07 DraftKings points per minute. Like he's good, but it's not like he stepped into some massive role. Zach Collins is at 1.2 DraftKings points per minute. He actually has a higher usage rate than Keldon, 25.9%. Vassell's at 27.6. He's also at 1.2 DraftKings points per minute. So yeah, like I'm happy that Collins is the guy that I am getting to here.
Then we go to the Pels side. Now, the Pelicans get the benefit of facing the team that's 26th in defensive rating and 4th in pace. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the 26th in defensive rating doesn't get better when you take Victor Wembanyama off the floor. So 15% ownership coming into Ingram, 15 to Joval, 10 to Zion. They are the three guys that I have, along with small shares of Herb Jones, 24% for Ingram, neutral for Joval and Zion. I don't really think you can go to much else. Just in case anybody asks about CJ McCollum, I would not be doing that today.
Yeah, I'm getting to Ingram and Joval. Those are the two. 19% Ingram for me, 15% Joval. So pretty much right around the field on those guys. I only have 2% Zion, 2% Herb Jones, who I was getting a lot of this morning. So I'm under on Zion at 8,900. On FanDuel, they look better. Zion is still very inexpensive, if I remember correctly. He is no, he's up to 8,800, but he is pulling 21% ownership, just easier to get to there. Ingram, 7,900, small forward, pulling 32%. Joval and Herb Jones are both relatively popular too. So the Pels do look better, easier to get to on FanDuel than they do on DraftKings, but the reduced price tag on Ingram is nice. Would be nice if he got small forward eligibility back. He would be really popular here, but $8,300 shooting guard still looks pretty good.
Yeah. I like this New Orleans side.
Yeah, and we mentioned it the other day too with Joval. Not a huge difference without Larry Nance, but he's averaged about a minute and a half more per game. And for somebody that gives you like 1.25 DraftKings points per minute, that's not nothing.
Yeah, it seems like his minutes have started to like stabilize after whatever weird shit was going on to start the season, where it just like he was just not playing at all. It was just 22, 23 minutes a night, like clockwork. He's played 28 or more in 4 of his last 5. That's pretty helpful.
I just feel so much better about him when Nance is out, because like Nance gives you a completely different type of player. Like he can defend different guys better.
Yeah, it changes the Pelicans' entire style.
Right. When you have Cody Zeller as the backup, not a knock on Cody Zeller, but like he's not bringing the same thing Larry Nance does to the table, where you can say, I don't like Joval in this matchup, let's go to Nance. It's kind of like, I don't like Joval in this matchup, I also don't like Zeller, let's just leave Joval out there because he's better at offense.
It's so wild because like Cody Zeller was pretty dynamic in college, and then he's just like, it's weird how you get to the NBA and like all that dynamic play is just like, oh, now he's just exactly what he looks like. It's kind of funny. He'd be like yamming on dudes in games and stuff, and you just don't feel like you get that kind of vibe out of Cody Zeller any longer, especially now that he's not like young. I mean, he's been in the league for a decade. He's 31 years old, but he was nice at Indiana.
I mean, he's good and he's solid enough, and he's
a backup center. He works. I'll take this guy. Would happily take his career. This one is a disaster, and I'm ready to break it down. Well, there's not much to break down. I just want to have the conversation. Denver Nuggets, 3-point favorites in Phoenix, 223 total. We already got the news for Phoenix that Devin Booker is out, but Q tag on Aaron Gordon, Q tag on Jamal Murray. And the prop market is looking like Nikola Jokic is going to get the benefit of not having these dudes around. He's 10% owned at 12.4 on DK. There's not a lot of ownership coming in here. I don't really like too much from Denver anyway. But let's talk through Jokic. Is he now like really interesting? Or is like if Joel Embiid is in, is it just hard to get to Jokic if Embiid's playing?
If Embiid's in, I think I'll have similar amounts. I had 8% Embiid. I have 9% Jokic right now.
Whoa, Tim Hardaway Jr. out.
All right, well, now I can maybe stop worrying about what I'm going to do with Jaden Hardy.
Oh, God.
I mean, they have to go to Hardy and Curry now. Right? Like, they need offense.
They need...
And they need people to just be on the floor.
Yeah, I mean, they don't play anybody else. That's the real thing for Dallas. Like, they have played over the past 28 days, 15 dudes. Luka Doncic isn't playing. Maxi Kleber is not playing. Dante Exum is not playing. Tim Hardaway Jr. is not playing. So we're already down to 11 of those potential guys. Markieff Morris is one of them, and he played 8 minutes total. Omax Prosper has been playing just like bench run. That's 9 dudes. It's not like Seth Curry and Jaden Hardy have been used aggressively.
Right.
They don't have they're just out of bodies.
This is definitely one of those slates where people are going to say that 2023 DFS is really hard because they didn't cash with 370 points.
Yeah. It's like, well, you don't get to use those points on the days where the scoring's low.
Yeah.
Okay, so ultimately, there's not going to be much interesting from Denver, even if Gordon and Murray are out. We create some value, but it's not going to look nearly as good as any of the other value we already have.
Right. The big thing for me is if Murray is out, Jokic looks better. That would, like, if Embiid is in and Maxey is in, and Murray is out, Jokic to me clearly looks better than Embiid at that point. And
Yes.
I would just want to be getting to Jokic when I'm paying up.
Yeah.
If Murray is in and Maxey is in, they just relative to salary look pretty comparable. I'm just going to be getting probably around 10% of both of them. Maybe a little bit more now that Hardaway is also out. But and then similarly, if Murray is in, which we may not know at the time, and Maxey is out, Embiid's just going to be the one that you want. Now who's out?
No, the verbiage of this one is ridiculous.
Oh, I know.
Julius Randle plans to try to play on Friday. I mean, come on. You don't have to tweet that, man. That's not information.
That's like me every day waking up when I'm thinking about if I'm going to work out tonight. Like,
yeah, I'm planning to try to work out.
I'm planning on trying to get myself to do it.
Yeah. Come on. Thanks, Ian Begley. I'm planning to try. Come on, man. That sounds like every excuse I've ever made.
Right.
Okay. If Maxey is out,
need Randall to watch some of the motivational like Facebook reels. Like, there's no trying. There's either doing or not.
If Maxey is out and Murray is out, you think you're getting to more Embiid or Jokic?
If
both point guards are out,
probably more Jokic.
Okay, interesting. I think it's Embiid just because of that minor salary savings.
Yeah, so I think it's kind of the same. Like the rates might go up because they're both going to look better, but I think they're just going to end up. I probably end up playing them in similar amounts.
Yeah,
like it just might be instead of 10% a piece, like 20% a piece.
Ultimately, though, even if one of Gordon or Murray are playing today, I really don't think you're playing anybody for Denver other than Jokic.
Agreed. I have a lineup or two lineups with Porter.
Okay. Yeah, like as always, any starter can be worked into a lineup probably, and it's not much of an issue, but there's no volume here. On the Phoenix side, this has changed quite a bit. I'm here. I don't know if you're going to be here. 10% ownership to Grayson Allen, 10 to Yusuf Nurkic, 34 to Kevin Durant. Now that we have no Devin Booker, I have 50.
I have 40.
Yeah. And, you should. He's really good. He's 9,900 power forward eligible. And the only person that's any good offensively on his team is him.
Yep. 413 minutes without Booker on the floor this year. I didn't remove Beal. I guess I could, but Beal's barely played. 358 minutes with no Booker or Beal, 38.1% usage rate for Durant. He has produced 1.46 DraftKings points per minute. So pretty comparable production for Durant as Kyrie without Luka. And we're just at the point now where you need raw points. Like you have all the value that you want, complete opposite of this morning.
Yep.
All the point per dollar value you want. You need guys to actually put up fantasy points somewhere, like actual raw fantasy points somewhere. And Durant's one of your best bets to do it. And he's doesn't come with the opportunity cost that, Jokic and Embiid do at center. It's just easier to get him in the lineups.
Kyrie Irving a better play than Kevin Durant because of price and position?
Yeah. But I think they're the two best pay up guys by a mile.
Yeah, you're just saving too much.
Right. Like the counter argument to Durant is he's getting 3 times the ownership of Jason Tatum, and Jason Tatum is also really good.
Yeah. That is an interesting dynamic between those two.
Kyrie's natural pivot is Maxey, who may not even be playing.
Yeah.
But he's also playing the Celtics, which sucks.
Yeah, Kyrie gets a date with Memphis, and it's not Marcus Smart. It's Jacob Gilliard or Derrick Rose.
Yeah.
I think he might be all right. Derrick Rose couldn't have guarded him when he had good knees. You ready to get out of here? Turn this one over to NBA Live Before Lock?
Yeah, slate is wild.
Hell of a slate. What a way to close out the work week. Thank you guys for being here. Hit that like button. In the interim, as we switch this one over, thanks to Mike Lawrence for producing. Thanks to Sleeper for sponsoring. We're going to talk to you guys later. Enjoy this one, man. It's going to be a gem. Peace.
We are back for another edition, a huge edition of the Stochastic Hall of Fame. Coming at you hot, fresh off $1 million winner for one of our subs. And man, that is awesome. All you got to do to get involved. Now, he might not need a free sub anytime soon, but you want to get a free sub, $200 value, whether it's NBA, Sims package, everything, NFL, everything up to $200 for the month. All you got to do, and to get inducted right here in the Stochastic Hall of Fame every single week, download the Stochastic profile picture at stochastic.com/avatar and tweet your wins to us at Stochastic HOF. You finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, you got a free month. Any Stochastic package you want, up to $200. And, of course, induction right here in the Hall of Fame. Let's get started. First up, Short Gamer TV. Wow. Or what a Sunday. Wow. Shout out to the Stochastic team and the Sims. Couldn't have done it without them. 1 million. Short Gamer TV took down the Millie yesterday. Obviously a very sharp dude, but utilizing the Stochastic tools, the Sims, all of it comes full circle. It's a beautiful thing. Shout out to Short Gamer TV. That has to be the greatest feeling in the world. $1 million win to kick off the week. Peter Hanley's back on the board. What's up, Peter? Got to get that free month and get to play a lot of NFL tomorrow. $13,000. Look at that three-way chop in the NBA Showdown fadeaway, followed by Maxwell Miller. Got second in the 65K NFL Spike on FanDuel yesterday. Thanks to all of you for helping me become a better DFS player. $3,000 win, second place for Maxwell. And Michael Yamada, multiple mini-mag. I love seeing these because remember, doesn't matter if you're entering 25-cent, 5-cent contest. Doesn't matter what you win. As long as you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, no matter the contest, you're in. Free month and up here. Minimax takedowns on DraftKings and a three-way chop for first on Owner's Box. We've been seeing a lot of Owner's Box wins pop up lately. Thankful for the NBA Sims tool as well as the amazing content. Shout out to Michael for 4 takedowns there. Braden, think I'm finally figuring out how to get the word out, Stochastic. Finished second in the Minimax last Sunday at Owner's Box. Again, the tools, especially the Sims, are making a big difference for me this year. Congrats, Braden. And Michael Phillips, Stinger 22, $3,000 win. Sims tool already paying dividends. You love to see it. How about Kevin Cutler? Biggest win so far for me. Thanks to Stochastic and the usual suspects. Haven't even started working with the Sims yet either. Watch out. Let's see that name in lights again. $5,000 for Kevin Cutler yesterday. We keep going. Big ones this week. Brett Shoup, little late posting this one. Another hit due to the awesome Live Before Lock videos. The data is real, my friends. $5K for Brett as well. And Mike Marks, Stochastic Hall of Fame, 3 fire emojis, $250. Second place in the 5K Minimax with Sean Geezy following up 2 in a row. Second out of 36K entries in the 15K Mini. Shout out to the crew as always. And then he had another one. He's up here a lot. Sean's up here a lot. Another Minimax win. Shout out to Stochastic crew for the best tools in the game. $500 takedown there. We go to AJJ or AJ245, one or the other. Just shouting out the guys at Stochastic again. Best tools and best knowledge in the game. It's helped me become a better DFS player. $300 second in the 7.5K Minimax for AJ. With Johnsy, how about this? Took down the Warriors versus Nuggets showdown, $15 slate. Thank you, Stochastic, for the tips. First place out of 11,700 entries. Some chops there, but we're throwing it up anyway because that's a nice $1,700 win. And we round this one out with Trappist Monk. Thanks to Stochastic for the great show on Saturday featuring the sharp NHL minds of Slim Cliffy and Josh. Their insight and advice helped me build some nice lineups, one of which took down the 2K quarter jukebox. Appreciate all you guys putting these in. And congrats to everybody. You've now been inducted in the Hall of Fame. Welcome back if you've been here before. Go collect those free subs. Download the avatar if you don't have it. Use it wherever it is you play. We'll see you back here next week.
What is happening, everybody? Is another NBA Live Before Lock. It is myself and Matt Belman breaking down the show. And I mean, we've already got injury news right out of the gate here where Joel Embiid, he was ruled out in between shows. So if you guys were sitting there and you're trying to figure out like, hey, what's due with Joel Embiid? We're going to be covering it on this show. Tyrese Maxey is questionable. We also got news that even though he's apparently warming up and is going to try to play, he is struggling according to Nick Nurse. So this is going to be some stuff, Matt, that we don't usually talk about in terms of like, there's some like real narrative type stuff at play that is going to be hard to account for in projections. Like if Maxey plays, but it's a situation where he's struggling according to coach Nick Nurse. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on here. We're going to break it down for you all here. If you haven't done it, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Shout out to Sleeper, who is sponsoring the show today, and a pretty good free square available over at Sleeper. If you guys sign up there, you're going to get a deposit bonus of up to $100. But in addition to that, Zion Williamson, over 0.5 points. Take advantage of that. So go sign up at Sleeper, use the link, and get access to this Zion free square. 0.5 points. I like the over on that one quite a bit. I assume Matt does as well. But more importantly, what are we doing with the Sixers news, Matt?
This is crazy. It feels like late season NBA right now. So I'm playing one lineup tonight, one big lineup in like the bigger contests throughout DK. And when I was first starting to like put it together, I was under the assumption that Embiid was going to be out. Then he went to shoot around, or he didn't go to shoot around, but I kind of just expected him to play. And then we get the Luka news. Now Embiid is out. It's one of those classic NBA slates where there's a ton of value. We haven't seen that recently. It depends on where you want to go. The Maxey situation is bizarre. We don't really see that too often. I mean, he looks hard to play at 9,400. That said, no one's going to play him. It's a tough spot in Boston. I'm not sure what to do with Philly as of right now. I'm waiting for our tools to update. What's your initial take?
Sure. So a couple of things here. We've also got the situation with Luka being out already. So we already know that he's not going to play. We just got news that Tim Hardaway Jr. is out. So we were coming into the start of the show, and my mindset was, I don't know exactly if Tim Hardaway's playing. I don't know what's going to be going on with the 76ers. And I built lineups. I told you right before the show started. I took the Wizards and the Magic out of my player pool entirely as I was running everything through the Sims, because to me, it's like, I don't know what the starting lineups are going to be for these teams. I don't know who's going to be in or who's going to be out, but I know I'm going to prefer a lot of players on this slate to what is going to be in the Orlando Washington game. It's not to say that there isn't some upside in the Orlando Magic players. It's up against the Washington Wizards. It's a super high total. The Magic are big favorites. They've got the highest team total on the slate, but the players are fairly expensive too. And there's other spots I'm going to like better from a points per dollar sense. So first thing I'm doing is I've taken that game out of my player pool and just waiting to make sure I have all the news so I can get in the most optimal guys on the slate that I could. And I just don't think that that is likely to come from the first game on the slate. Could I get screwed if Boncaro goes out and scores 60 fantasy points? Sure, but I'm willing to take my chances that doesn't happen. As for the other
this is looking like a classic stars and scrubs type slate. And the thing about Orlando, they've got good players, but they don't have that like one really expensive guy that you feel confident is going to get you a ton of DK points. They've got guys that can certainly do it, as you mentioned, but they don't have like that one elite guy. It was already looking stars and scrubsy before we got Embiid out. With him out, it just makes it almost impossible to get away from that type of build.
And then as for your question about what I'm going to do with the 76ers, I need a little bit more information here on the Tyrese Maxey situation. It seemed like he's going to try to play, but I still need more info in terms of like when Nick Nurse said that he's really struggling. I know there's extra usage available to him with Joel Embiid out, but that's difficult for me to wrap my head around. His roster, a guy who the coach says himself is struggling. So even if he plays, to me, it's like, how effective is he going to be? Is he only going to be able to play 20 minutes? There's a really wide range of outcomes here. And to me, I think the field is still going to be playing Tyrese Maxey without Joel Embiid. I think Maxey's going to project really well without Joel Embiid, which is going to get people there. And to me, I'd rather not be on the guy who's apparently fairly sick. And we have to assume if Joel Embiid's out with an illness and Tyrese Maxey is also sick, it stands to reason they have the same illness. And the same thing that's held Joel Embiid out for now multiple games, Tyrese Maxey's dealing with. I can't be assured that he's going to play a full workload, is going to be able to handle a massive amount of usage here. So I am probably not going to be on Tyrese Maxey unless we find out that like he's totally good to go. No restrictions, he's feeling much better. I don't think that's going to be the case though. So it's going to be the other value guys that end up standing out for the 76ers. And hopefully we actually get Paul Reed starting the center today.
Yeah, I would kind of be surprised if he didn't, just because of the rotations we saw last game. Bizarre that Bamba came in ahead of him, but he still played more minutes than any of those other guys. The thing with Philly, and if we didn't have Luka out, Philly would look really, really good here because DK's priced up slates. They're priced up players on pretty much every slate recently, and that's still true today, except that Philly's in a really, really tough spot in Boston. Dallas is not in as tough of a spot against Memphis. And then there's a little more clarity with Dallas, just because not only do you have Luka out, but Exum's out as well. And now Tim Hardaway. So like they already run a short rotation. It's hard to see the main guys for Dallas not getting major minutes. And a decent spot against Memphis. It's not the greatest spot in the world, but it's definitely better than Boston. So I like the Dallas guys more than the Philly guys. I think there's more certainty there. And even with like, I hope Maxey plays, because if he doesn't, then it kind of just becomes a shit show. But if he plays, like there's no clear guy you can go to and say you're confident he's going to play a ton of minutes and produce. Like Harris is going to certainly play as many minutes as they're in the game, but like he's 7K. I don't know. It's a tough one for sure.
All right. And now we've got some super chats that have come in here, as well as some questions in the Discord. So we'll be addressing all of that. And also, I have to talk about my robe and why I'm wearing it. I gave you a little bit of insight on it before the show started. So a couple things going on here. First, I got my gift package from DraftKings in the mail because they did the December gifts. So I got the UGG stuff. So I got robe, I got slippers. It's all very comfortable. But also, I had to go to the DMV today, that's not my favorite place in the world. Do you like the DMV, Matt?
I don't know anyone that does.
Okay, so I don't like the DMV, but also there are a lot of communicable diseases that you could get at the DMV. Colds, flus, things along those lines. If you happen to have a toilet there, I assume you get gonorrhea if you go to the bathroom there at the DMV. Depression, that is something you could almost certainly catch if you go to the DMV. So I get home and I'm taking a shower. And then after a shower, I've got this show coming up. I didn't feel like getting dressed. So I threw on my finest Nickelodeon shirt. I put on the robe and then showed up to work good and ready to go. So that's the reason why we've got the robe on today. More importantly now also, super chats, questions to answer. First off here, we have Ace of Spade who's asking us for favorite options in DK tiers. And yeah, we'll start rattling through these. Tier 1, probably the easiest it's going to be. Nikola Jokic. We've only got 2 guys to choose from here because Joel Embiid and Luka Doncic were in tier 1, and neither of them are options anymore. So we got Nikola Jokic. We've got Kevin Durant. I like Jokic the most as a pay-up option. This isn't going to be directly a tiers question, but just kind of in general today, Matt. Who are you prioritizing on the high end? Is it Jokic? Is it Durant? Is it going to be both? Do you think you're going to be able to fit both of them into lineups? I've been rerun stuff since the Sixers news and since Hardaway was rolled out. Are we going to be able to build lineups where it just scrubs Jokic and Durant in most lineups?
In my one lineup right now, and like I don't want to say it's a dummy because I've been playing around with it, I have both Durant and Jokic. I think that Durant's the priority for me just because of his price tag with Booker out. Like Jokic is, and I wrote about Jokic in my contrarian article today because he wasn't getting a lot of love. He's the best DFS producer we've had probably since like Westbrook in OKC. I mean, Harden's up there in Houston. So on any slate he's on, he can be considered the ultimate priority. Durant, for me, though, looks like the top dollar for dollar top high-end play at under 10K without Booker out in a showcase game against Denver. I like both of them a lot. Durant's the priority for me, but I like both of them quite a bit.
In tiers, I'm going to definitely say Jokic over Durant. We don't have to worry about positions.
Yes.
We don't have to worry about pricing, just the two. So Jokic there, but I do think that when I end up rerunning lineups after everything gets updated here, I'm probably going to end up with a lot of my lineups built Jokic and Durant. I saw we got a question about that in Discord. Hit on that in a second, but yeah, I like Jokic the most in tier 1. Tier 2, where we now have Kyrie Irving, Tyrese Maxey, Zion Williamson. I'm going to go with Kyrie Irving here. And this is going to be another decision point a lot of people are going to have to make is in the event that Tyrese Maxey plays, he's good to go. Is it going to be Kyrie Irving or Tyrese Maxey we prefer to get to? By the way, Wemby also in this tier. He's out tonight. Injury report's a total disaster for tonight. I'm going to, one of the other reasons that it's going to be easy for me to not really play much of Tyrese Maxey is I much prefer getting to Kyrie Irving at a similar price point.
Yeah, I agree. You know, thinking about the report that you read, I would say it's unlikely. If I had to guess, I would say he doesn't play.
Probably my best guess too. At the most surprising thing to me would be he plays and looks good.
Yeah, like why is Nick Nurse even saying he's struggling then? Like,
yeah, it is a very weird statement to put out. Like, it's almost like he's giving him an out if he ends up playing and plays poorly.
That's a good call.
And the other thing too, I think this is Mike. I think your Philly team, they're all faking illnesses and they're super soft and they don't want to admit that the Celtics are better than them. I think that's also going on here. Kyrie Irving in tier 2 anyway. Tier 3. Now here's where things actually get a lot closer. Got Desmond Bane, Julius Randle, Kyle Kuzma, Boncaro, Scotty Barnes. I like Desmond Bane the most here. In tier 4, I like Brandon Ingram the most. In tier 5, I like Franz Wagner the most. So in classic contests, I'm not getting to the first game on the slate. For tiers, I like Franz Wagner here. And then tier 6, this is where another spot where things kind of get interesting. And there's a talking point here. Tobias Harris is in tier 6, Matt. And this is where things get really tricky, right? Because we already know Joel Embiid is out. If Maxey is also out and limited, well, then Tobias Harris has to be a go-to usage guy in that offense. But it's a brutal matchup. There's going to be a lot of blowout risk. I haven't looked to see what the updated spread is for this game, but it has to be a ton. Let me see, actually. I'm going to pull this up. We've got the Celtics favor. Actually, not as much as I thought. They're favored by 10. It's a significant amount, but maybe less than I thought it was going to be. Tobias Harris. If Tyrese Maxey is out, I'm going to go with him as my answer here in tier 6 for the final tier. But what are we going to do with Tobias Harris in classic contests in a scenario where Tyrese Maxey doesn't play?
I'm with you. I thought that spread would be like, and I haven't checked recently, would be like 13-ish. So yeah, 10 is a lot, but it's not as high as I thought it would be. If Maxey somehow ends up being out, then yeah, I think it does move up to even higher. Harris in classic, like thagain, if we didn't have Dallas, Harris would look better. Dallas just isn't priced for Luka and those other guys to be out. Philly, they're starting to get priced for Embiid to be out because he was just out. So DK raised their prices. Harris still is appealing and he looks good. I put him on the level of those guys on the first game, like Kuzma and Banchero. With Maxey or without Maxey, to be honest, I think there's benefits to both. With Maxey, the offense is going to look a lot crisper. He's their best offensive player. With Embiid out, better chance of being in the game. Without Maxey, I mean, Harris is going to have to do everything, but I don't really trust him in that role. So either way, like, he's not a priority for me, but certainly in play.
Yeah, and we've got also Zach Collins in this tier. And I know people in chat saying I think Zach Collins is another great option without Wemby. For me, though, I'm going to go with Tobias Harris over these guys in at least for the tiers sense if Tyrese Maxey doesn't play, which is what I think is going to be the case. But we'll see. More news to come. And Matt and I are also going to be sticking around for 30 minutes post-lock to break down any of that news, which almost certainly is going to happen today. Because if you look, it's not just that we're waiting on Tyrese Maxey. We're waiting on starting lineups too. Like, I don't know exactly what the Mavericks starting lineup is going to be. I don't know what the Sixers starting lineup is going to be. So you guys are going to stick around for the 30 minutes in the post-lock show where we react to that news and see how it impacts our lineups. It's also another reason why, just to hammer home another point, why I took the first game on the slate out of my player pool, just to give me the most flexibility possible to be able to react to whatever that starting lineup and all the news is that comes out. Let's see what we have in the chat from here. We have one from JEW, and he says, what do you think about 6 Mavericks with Durant and Jokic for a DK single entry? So 6 is too many for me. I'm not willing to play 6 Mavericks in one lineup, but what is the most amount that you're willing to play on DraftKings, Matt? So on FanDuel, the obvious answer is 4 because it's the most we could play. And I think 4 is an acceptable answer. But how many players are you willing to play from the Mavericks in a single DraftKings lineup?
So my answer's now changed because of that question. So in the one lineup I have built, it's 6 Mavericks with Durant and Jokic, because I don't think people will want to play 6 Mavericks. But now getting a question like that, I think more people do want to play more Mavericks that I'm thinking, even with the Philly news, makes me like the Philly side more. If everyone's going to back off of Philly because they think blowout and they were bad last time, give me Philly over Dallas, knowing that like they don't project as well. So I think that you can play 6, but I think like, most lineups are going to have like 4 of these guys. So you're just eating more and more chalk, like the more you play, basically.
Yeah. So for me, I'm willing to play up to 5 Mavericks one line, which is a shit ton of players from one team to play.
Yes.
But 6 is too much for me. 6, I'm not willing to go there. 5, I am. 5, I'm cool with. 6, I'm not going to quite get that. And there's so much other value available as well, right? Like if you are playing 6 Mavericks with Luka with Jokic and with Durant, like I understand what it is that you're doing there. You're getting to Kyrie, who's a great pay up option. You're getting all these value plays, but then you need nobody else on the slate to be good, basically.
The thing is, I agree with you, and that's why I'm gonna get off this. But Dallas is so cheap that if Jokic and Durant go off, and you get decent games from Hardy, Curry, Green, Derek Jones, these guys are all 4K and under is the thing. So I see your point and I'm with you. I don't want to play it how the field is going to play it. So I think in tournaments where they're all really top heavy, it's better to get off those builds. But like you said, I understand why it's happening, just because Dallas is so cheap. And it's not just Luka. Exum being out and THJ being out just means their rotation's so much shorter.
Yeah, and I'm going to be rerunning lineups right now with everything that's going on and all the updated news, and I'll see what I end up getting to here when the dust settles. So JW 5 Mavericks is the most familiar, which is still a ton from one team, but that's going to be the max for me. Next question is from Cleveland 27. And his question was, how much Dallas is too much Dallas on DK? So same question coming into it. It seems everybody's head is in the same spot today. And yeah, I'm going to once again say 5. We don't have to rehash that. Clyde is saying, if Jamal Murray doesn't play, rank your interest in Reggie Jackson on FanDuel relative to the other high-owned guys there. I mean, there's so much cheap. So a couple of things here. First off, Reggie Jackson is not super cheap anymore, right? Like Reggie Jackson, we've seen have a couple of games. He's gotten to be priced up. Even if Jamal Murray is out, Reggie Jackson is not going to be a super high priority for me. How about for yourself, Matt?
Not even in play. I mean, now that we have so many good guards to play, just on Dallas alone, Reggie Jackson is not in play at all for me. Not even someone I'm looking at. If I were playing 150, don't think I'd have any of him. The big thing for him is not Murray. It's Jokic who is out, that he had that huge game against the Clippers. He's even said he has no problem deferring to Jokic. Not a guy that really likes to defer, but it's Jokic. So with Jokic in, I'm not spending up on Reggie Jackson. This is a stars and scrubs type build. It's just a matter of what scrubs you want to play. And I will say, I want to throw a question to you. I mentioned it just a second ago, but does your interest in Philly rise, knowing that like the field is just going to keep flocking to Dallas? Even if Maxi's out, I still think that Philly becomes less owned than Dallas just because people are worried about the blowout.
So I'm going to run lineups right now and see what ends up popping up for me. I assume I'm going to be getting to a good amount of Phillies guys if Tyrese Maxey gets ruled out, or if I'm going to assume that he's limited in some kind of like. I just think this is a really good team on a points per dollar basis. Anyway, let's see. Do we have an ownership update? We have an ownership update for everything that's going on right now. There's a lot of intangibles to this slate as well. All right, ownership updated, and that has Embiid out. It has Hardaway out. So, okay, here are the most roster players on the slate. Holy shit. If we just go down from top to bottom, most roster player is Hardy. Second most, Kyrie Irving. And the numbers on these guys, by the way, Hardy 82% owned, Kyrie Irving 74.4, Josh Green 73.3, Seth Curry 53.8, Derek Jones Jr. 48.9, Derek Lively 37.2. Then you get to Kevin Durant at 36%. I'm almost surprised Jokic only projects for 17.5% ownership. I have a feeling that's going to end up being higher. What is Maxey at?
That's already double what he was earlier in the day. And in all these single entry type contests, like he might end up 25% owned in the 15, but in like single entry stuff, I bet he's 40 to 50.
Maxey's 8.
What is the Philly ownership projected to be right now? All right, let's isolate Philly. Mike, throw this up on screen and just, your Philadelphia 76ers, the cowards that are scared to play against the Boston Celtics today. What are their ownerships? All right, so we have Maxey right now projected for 8% ownership. So he's expected to be the most popular player on the team right now. We've got Melton at 6%, Tobias Harris at 5%. If Paul Reed starts at 4%, he's not going to be 4% owned if he starts, but I would really like Paul Reed. We got like no ownership going to Philadelphia without Melton Reed right now.
I love Philly now. Like, I know they don't project as well as Dallas and they're not quite as cheap, but it's just so much of a clearer path to the top. Like, the other thing I'll say about Philly is I watched some of that Philly New Orleans game last time out because I had a lot of Philly. I pivoted to them, and like, they were not good, but they were much better in the second half. Like, all those guys were awful in the first half, but they looked competent in the second half. Covington played a ton. Now, if Batum plays, who knows there, but like, I like Philly a lot here. I think it's just different value that people are scared to go to, and they're a little bit more expensive. So yeah, give me Philly now.
All right, so I've got the Sims running right now, and I'll let you guys know some of the results in terms of what I'm getting to, some of the individual the individual 76ers players, the individual players from the Dallas Mavericks, and that'll paint a little bit clearer of a picture for me, but I think I have a pretty good feel of what's going to come out, and I'm going to be well overweight to Paul Reed, I think, when everything comes through here. Some super chats, and we'll get back into Discord. Brandon Wagner saying, can we play Nasir Little in DK 20 max, stars and scrubs, and keep landing there? Nasir Little, is he somebody that's going to be popping up for me? I doubt it. There's so many. There's a 6-game slate today. And on those just 6 games, I think we had more value than we've had in any other slate of the entire year. Nasir Little at $3,600 is probably like my 30th favorite value, like my 30th favorite value option or something. So no. Yeah,
he's a no, just like Reggie Jackson. They're different no's, but like they're both not in play anymore on this slate because it's now like if you're not playing, like I think if you're not playing Dallas and you're not playing Philly value, you're making a mistake. Like you got to play one of those just because NBA is so projectable. Like Philly makes sense as a pivot off of Dallas, but I'm still well aware that Dallas looks the best based on their price tags.
Let's see. Somebody in chat was asking how many minutes for Hardy tonight. We have Hardy projected for right around 30 minutes, which I think is a pretty reasonable projection. Now, I think there's a pretty wide range of outcomes with Hardy's minutes. We've seen games where they've been shorthanded in the past where he hasn't played like a ton. We've seen other games too where he's played like upwards of 40 minutes when the Mavericks have been shorthanded. It's a really wide range of outcomes, but Hardy's super popular. And I do think of him as the overall best value play on the slate. Would you agree with that?
Definitely. Because the thing about him, he's so productive when he gets run. Like Derek Jones Jr. and Grant Williams and Josh Green can all play 30 minutes and each of them get like 20 DraftKings points. Now, I will say, and I forgot to say this at the beginning of the show, you were right. I was wrong. You're handsome. I'm ugly about Bryce McGowan's. He was really good last night and needed. So you could get that from one of these Dallas guys, but they're similar in that they're not really productive. Hardy is. Give me Hardy as the top value on the slate.
All right. I am looking at the most updated version of my lineups. So this is taking into account the most recent run of ownership we have, updated projections, and let's see what I'm getting to as far as some of these guys. So yeah, I am so far overweight to Paul Reed. In my top 150 lineups, Paul Reed, we have projected for sub 10% ownership. Matt is in 46% of my lineups.
That makes a ton of sense.
So that is a spot that I do really like getting overweight to. Now, maybe as we get closer to lock and the Philly starting lineup comes out, that'll be something where his ownership updates and he becomes more popular. Right now, I think he is way under-owned. And then I get to Nikola Jokic and Kevin Durant, each of them in about a third of my lineups as I mix and match different value pieces around those guys. One thing that is kind of interesting about the slate now is if you look at the center position, we've got Paul Reed, we've got Derek Lively, we've got Nikola Jokic. It's a very loaded center spot in terms of guys we want to be getting to. And then I don't get to a ton of other guys at center. Like there's some other players that I get to, like 10% of, or, like some Nurkic lineups and whatnot, some Valanciunas lineups. But for the most part, my center exposure is Paul Reed, Derek Lively, and Nikola Jokic right now. Next super chat that we have here is from Corey Randall. He's saying, Greg, with Embiid out, and in my opinion, Maxey will be out, or even if he plays, I'm not thinking Tobias. I'm thinking Melton will be the play. To me, why not both? Right? If there is no Maxey and there is no, and we already know there's no Embiid. If there's no Embiid and there is no Maxey, I want to get exposure to both Tobias Harris and DeAnthony Melton. I think I agree with you. Like points per dollar, Melton looks probably stronger. The price point on Melton is 6,300, whereas Harris is 80 or 6,900. But I would like both of them. Like I don't think it has to be one or the other.
Yeah, it's totally with you. And I will say, I don't know how popular Reed gets no matter what, because people are worried about the blowout, and Jokic and Lively are going to pull so much ownership. He won't be 4%, what we have listed now, but I could see him being 15% based on like his rotation last time out. People are scared of that game. So I love Reed. I mean, Reed looks like the best play in the slate right now in my mind.
Yeah, and we'll see what that ownership ends up updating to be. See if there's been another fresh run where maybe something changed since we looked at it before. Nope, still. Yeah, we got Paul Reed at a 4% projected ownership right now. 4% over on DraftKings. On FanDuel, Paul Reed is projected for 3%. He's a lot more expensive on FanDuel at $5,100, and you also are only able to play one center. So I think he's way better looking on DraftKings, but I still want to be overweight to a 3% on Paul Reed. And one other thing, too, that I think we should add about this. If the game's a blowout, does Paul Reed play in garbage time?
Maybe, but maybe not. Like, they still have Bamba, who they could play. Like, he might play garbage time, but if he starts, I think it just depends on like who's on the floor. I don't think they're making an active like decision to get him out on the floor in garbage time, but I also don't think they're like trying to get him off. He's really productive, and I don't get, if he doesn't start, I'll say this, like my interest in him becomes a lot lower. I know that his ownership will be even lower than what we project, but it's just hard to get to him on this slate if he doesn't start. What's your feeling there?
It's tough, right? Because to me, I think Paul Reed is a guy that the 76ers like to get minutes while also being a part of the rotation. And I do think also that the 76ers, even though if it seems at times they don't want to play him, I think that he's somebody who's more important to the team than Mo Bamba is, and they want to get him that rep. So I actually do think Paul Reed would play in garbage time.
I get that.
Got some more questions coming in here. This one is from JEW, just following up, said he didn't know the Philly news when he asked it. Fair enough. He'd asked before just 6 Mavericks and then getting to Jokic and Durant as pay-ups. He said that at the time he asked that question, it was before he realized or before he even had the news on the 76ers. So understandable. No issues there. Captain Akella is asking us, who is somebody we like in single entry? So who's a single entry play that we might like for today? I mean, I'm going to go right back to the same guy I just answered in Paul Reed.
Yeah, same. I'm going to go right to Reed too, assuming he's starting. And I will say, like, the more I'm thinking about this slate, Tobias Harris looks really good. I love guys, and this is it with Maxey in or out. Harris was like 60% owned last slate when Embiid was out. He's similarly priced, and he's going to be like a fraction of that here because people aren't getting to that price here. They don't feel comfortable with it, whatever the reason is. I love plays like that. So I'm going to say Tobias Harris.
We've got somebody in the chat salty about Paul Reed. And yeah, I get that he was a little bit of a disappointment in his last start relative to what expectations were. But this is still a guy who's relatively cheap, especially on DraftKings. And he is a very good points per minute fantasy producer who, most importantly, the field is not playing right now. Last slate, Paul Reed was, in my opinion, underowned at like 30-ish%, even though he didn't have the best results. Still, I think that he was underowned on that slate because that news came out kind of late. And look at Paul Reed overall, right? So I'm going to pull up Paul Reed and his fantasy points per minute, right around a fantasy point per minute this year. Last year, he scored 12.1 fantasy points per game in 10.1 minutes, like well over a fantasy point per minute. And now you have a scenario where the Sixers are massively shorthanded. It's a terrible matchup against the Celtics, but there could be garbage time Paul Reed potentially plays. And if Paul Reed is going to be a guy that we should all expect to be about a fantasy point per minute guy, we could be looking at somewhere around 30 minutes for Paul Reed, which would mean a potential expectation around 30 fantasy points at what is right now not expected to be a ton of ownership. There's a lot of condensed ownership on the value plays on the Dallas Mavericks. Paul Reed looks like one of the most reasonable ways to play a slightly lower owned guy that also has comparable upside.
Yeah, I'm really liking Philly here. So I like Philly a lot here. And yeah, they're not in a good spot, but it's the NBA. I mean, if this were a 7-game series, yeah, there's no way Philly would have a shot without their guys, but it's one game. Maybe Boston's taking them a little bit lighter. Like I said, they played well in the second half last game without Embiid. They made a comeback in the fourth quarter against a fully healthy New Orleans team that looked like they were just going to run them out of the gym. So the more we talk about this slate, the more I really, really like Philly from a tournament perspective. Because, yeah, Dallas is more likely to succeed, but the ownership is just all over there. I think the ownership should be a little bit more balanced. So give me Philly there. Here's a question for you, though. If Maxey is out, what does that open up for you from Philly? Like, I know Jaden Springer's now in. Do you like a Patrick Beverly? Who do you like there, if anyone?
Yeah, it would probably be Melton, Harris, and then just rounding out with whatever cheap guys end up starting.
That's fair.
And I couldn't tell you confidently. I know what the starting lineup is going to be there. Like maybe it ends up being Springer in the starting lineup, but we know he's potentially not 100%. He's dealing with an illness himself. So we'll see what the starting lineup looks like. And we're going to know sometime during the show we're on the show here for another 54 minutes, and that game locks at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. So at the very least, that'll be during our post-lock time slot there. So hopefully we'll know sometime in the next 30, 40 minutes or so whether Maxi's in or out, and then the starting lineup. We're going to obviously have to know if Maxi's playing before we know what the starters are. Teddy Wayman is asking Harris or Boncaro on FanDuel, and then thanks. So there's a couple of ways for me to answer this. First off, I think that Boncaro is too popular on FanDuel. When you consider the scenario on this slate with the amount of players that are out and Boncaro being 30% owned, it's not really a spot that I'm loving to get to. But if you're telling me that you have a choice between Boncaro and Tobias Harris, Boncaro is $1,500 more expensive. You're not ever leaving $1,500 in salary on the table for an NBA slate. So the answer for me, when it's those two compared to each other, it's Paulo Boncaro.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's kind of like the tiers question. Like, yeah, I prefer Durant at his price, but if it's Durant or Jokic, I mean, it's obviously Jokic, and similar here. Like, it's like, yeah, I mean, in baseball, it's different, but in basketball, yeah.
And Kenny Wayne 256 had thoughts on Melton on DK with no Embiid and Maxey supposedly dealing with an illness. Yeah, I mean, if Maxey's out, or we find out, like, as it seems to be, that he's going to be limited, I'm going to like Melton. Melton is somebody who's going to have a pretty good amount of upside in that spot if that ends up being the case with no Maxey and no Joel Embiid. The Consigliere, leaving us a super chat, wants to know best under 4,700 and under player on FanDuel, but it can't be from Dallas or Philly. It can't be from Dallas, it can't be from Philly, and it can't be a center. So there's a lot of caveats here.
So the best value under what price tag?
So under $4,700 on FanDuel.
Okay.
It can't be a center, and it can't be from Dallas or Philly. I feel like we're almost playing 21 questions here. And we're trying to figure out, what the true answer is. Like, I think he already knows, and he's quizzing us.
There's no one. I mean,
all right. So it can't be Dallas. Can't be Philly. 4,700. Is there anybody okay, can't be a center. I'm going to say Goodwin, but I mean, I don't feel great about it. He's projected for 8% ownership. He's viable on FanDuel. There is no Devin Booker out there. He's somebody who stands to gain, usage and playing time. I'm not going out of my way to play Jordan Goodwin, but I think he is the answer here.
He's been good recently. So before the Dallas news, like if Embiid was in, Goodwin would look like probably one of the better value plays on the slate because Booker's out, but that's not the case. So he's fine there. For me, I'm going to say Charles Bassey. Like, give me the upside there. Our tools really like Bassey from a tournament perspective, grading out with a lot of leverage. If he happens to start, like, we've seen it before from him too. So give me Bassey there.
All right. The next question here, it is Joe Lacatz. The hell with Eric. Who's the exotic play of the night? It's tough, man. Like, I don't like, because I mean, I just default to Jokic looking at my exposures, right? If I'm trying to find white dudes, then I'm getting into lineups, but I mean, he can't be that exotic. See, this is why you need Eric here for this, because Eric would have some stupid guy that would go out and shit the bed and score 8 fantasy points and be really confident about it. And I just don't have that in me. I'm playing a lot of the cheap guys from the Mavericks today.
It's funny.
Cheap guys from the Sixers.
We talked about the exotic play yesterday, and I told you, like, my initial thought was like just completely out on a reservation. So when whoever asked about Reggie Jackson, like, my head went to, that's like what I think the exotic play is. That's literally what I thought. Like, no one's playing that guy. So yeah, there is no like just standard white guy really in play on this slate because Ingles now has Jonathan Isaac back. So
I'm checking to see if there was. I mean, if Paul Reed is actually 5% owned, that's the answer in terms of I know this isn't the Eric answer, but the answer that I'm giving out in terms of somebody who's actually a good DFS option relative to ownership, Paul Reed, B-ball Paul. Got some questions coming into Discord. If you guys haven't done yet, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And then also, don't forget, if you want to sign up for the NBA package, I'm building my lineups right now in the contest generator in the sim. I'm updating shit every few minutes here because things are constantly changing on the slate. I'm going to have to use the late swap tool after the slate starts. And by the way, some other news here. Devin Vassell will play off the bench. He's going to be remaining off the bench even with Wemby out. And then also Julius Randle is confirmed in for tonight. But this is a slate where I think we're going to need a late swap a whole bunch. The NBA late swap tool is going to be really important to me tonight. It's been all season, but especially tonight. If you want to sign up for our NBA tools, there's a link for that below in the description box. But let's go ahead and see what else we're getting here in the Discord channel. This one is from Mr. Coolcam. Thoughts on the Orlando Magic players on FanDuel? Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of guys here that are picking up a lot of ownership. Mentioned Boncaro before, projected for 30% ownership. I'd just rather take my chances with news in the later spot. So I have taken the first game on the slate out of my player pool, and I just fingers crossed that nobody ends up blowing up from the first game of the night.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you there.
The Black Mamba wants us to rank all of the pieces that we have interest in for Dallas. Yes. Okay. There's a lot of them that we have interest in. In order of the exposures I have: Josh Green, Kyrie Irving, Jaden Ivey, Seth Curry, Derek Lively. And by the way, the guys at the top, Josh Green, Kyrie Irving, Jaden Hardy, that's its own tier. Like, those three guys are in so many of my lineups that they are all together, right? So like, that's its own tier. I'm not even going to differentiate between those guys. Green, Irving, Hardy, that's like one group of dudes together that I really like a whole bunch. Then you get to the next tier, which I group Seth Curry and Derek Lively together. And then the next tier after that, it's Derek Jones Jr. and Grant Williams. So that's how I'm going to rank them. I mean, there's different ways you could go about approaching this. You could just do it by, fantasy points. You could do it just strictly by the amount of exposures. I kind of tiered them off, though. How about for yourself, Matt?
I think it's exactly the same. Like, Kyrie, Hardy, and Josh Green look like three plays that are almost impossible to get away from. You're only not playing them because of ownership. And then it gets a little bit lighter from there with Lively, Derek Jones Jr., Seth Curry, and Grant Williams. Like, you're not playing 7 Mavericks, so you're gonna have to leave 1 or 2 guys out of each lineup. So it's gonna be out of that second group for the most part.
We just got a projections update as well. So I'm going to throw that in because, listen, he can never rerun lineups too many times before lock. So that is about to be something I'm going to be doing yet again, is updating more lineups for myself with those new projection updates. But here we've got another question. This is from Pusha. Pusha says, who are the top 3 Mavs for single entry on DK? Yeah, so guys that I just put like in the tier 1 of Mavs players: Josh Green, Kyrie Irving, Jaden Hardy. If I was building a lineup with just 3 Mavs, those are the 3 that I'd be going with.
Yeah, I agree.
Next question here. Einsteinium, is Paul Reed a reasonable pivot play off of Lively? Not just reasonable, one that I love. He's somebody who I have more exposure to Paul Reed right now than I do have to Lively. And it's not to say that Lively isn't a good option. He's a great option today. But I think Paul Reed is under-owned, and I don't want to only be playing Mavericks players in my lineups, and Paul Reed is one of my favorite pivots of the entire night. Now, I'll feel a little bit differently if he's not starting, but my expectation right now is that he is going to end up being the starter. Next question is from Hayes Stables, who wants to know Zion or Ingram for a cash game today on FanDuel. Zion or Ingram? For me, let me look at the difference in ownership and the price as well. Aren't they? They're different positions on FanDuel. He asked for FanDuel cash. I'm trying to figure out what the scenario is where he is comparing them, because one's small forward only, one's power forward only. My slightly higher priority is Brandon Ingram. He's a little bit cheaper on FanDuel. He's also a little bit more popular. And then in addition to that, we have them projected, about the same. Small forward a little bit harder to fill. So I'm going to tell you the answer is Brandon Ingram, but you could also play both of them in cash tonight. And we're caught up on the questions here. Is there anything that we haven't talked about when it comes to the value on Dallas here, Matt, that you think we haven't overturned? Is there any kind of contrarian angle you could see to the Dallas Mavericks?
Yeah, they suck because Luka's their best player, and Memphis isn't like the greatest matchup in the world. Again, Memphis stinks, but it's more they stink from the offensive end. Like, defensively, they're not bad. So, like, could this game just be a mess and there just not be a ton of DK points or FanDuel points, fantasy points all the way around? Yeah, I think that's the contrarian angle. I don't really see like guys off the bench because they're I don't know. The guys like that aren't in the main group that we talked about, like, never play. Maybe Markieff Morris, like if I were playing 150, I'd have a little bit of him, but no one I'm going to sit here and be like, this dude's going to play. He's going to be productive. It's a scenario we haven't seen at all this year. Last year, there was games Luka was out, but They had Christian Wood. It's just a different situation. So, there's some question marks there, but nothing I can sit here and say like fade this.
And now we've also got other teams on the slate as well. So before we get to lock, I think we should talk about that as well.
Yeah.
Of the players who are not, so we're going to take these guys out of consideration. Not the Mavericks, not Philly, not Kevin Durant, not Nikola Jokic. Outside of that group of guys, is there anybody that you are looking at as a strong option? Because we know everybody's lineups are just going to be based on that group of players I just brought up.
Yeah. The guy that I'm thinking about that looks like that guy for me is Desmond Bane. Okay. He especially fits if you're like playing all that Dallas. I mean, if you're playing all that Dallas, you expect that game to be at least decent from a DFS perspective. So, running it back with Bane makes sense. Again, not a priority. The Philly guys look like Bane is going to be more popular than Tobias Harris here. And I get it, but I like Harris in the same realm that I like Reed, just not getting enough love. But Bane, I guess, would be my answer.
And then just because you kind of brought it up, is that another angle that you're maybe thinking about a little bit on this slate is with some spots like Dallas being really shorthanded, should we be thinking more about game stacks tonight than we normally would?
I don't think so. Just because you're playing a lot of Dallas. You're playing them because of their price tags. I like the idea of bringing Bane as a run back just because he's really good. And if Dallas succeeds, the game has probably a nice pace to it. But Dallas guys can succeed in so many different ways just based on their price point. You don't need anyone from Memphis, but doesn't make me like them any less. And Bane is the clear guy for me there.
All right, we got a couple questions that have come in here into our Discord channel. So I want to make sure that we have answered these. First is from JEW. He's asking, best lineup on DK has Gallinari in it. Keep him in or pivot. And then if he is pivoting, to who? So here's what I'm going to say. We have Gallinari in that first game of the night, right? Don't play him. I'm not playing anybody from that game. Here's the other thing I'm going to tell you. It doesn't even matter who you pivot to right now because that other player isn't going to stick in your lineup, right? What is the price point on Gallo? Gallo is, what is Gallo? Gallo is priced at $3,600. Play any cheap guy from Dallas, Philly, and just have him as a placeholder and then update your shit once we get more information on the news, who's in, who's out, and what the starting lineups are. It doesn't even matter who that other guy is. It just don't have him be Gallinari. It's a little hard for me to say which player you want us because my answer is going to be a comparably priced player from Dallas or from Philly, but I don't know who else is in your lineup because I might answer somebody who's already in your lineup there. Gallo, somebody.
Yeah, the answer is just not Gallo. I'm with you. Yeah.
And then we've got Morloon here says that I get that they are super short-handed, but should Curry be involved in our builds? Yes. So Seth Curry is not. He's far from my favorite Mavericks player to get to, right? He's not my tier one of Mavericks values, but yes, I think he should be in your lineup. If you're playing one lineup, maybe Curry isn't in that, but Seth Curry, what do you have to be doing in terms of amount of lineups you're playing to get to Seth Curry? Is it 1, Matt? Is it 3? Is it 10? At what point do you start considering Seth Curry one of the Mavericks guys that should be in your lineup?
1, he's not a must, but he's definitely in consideration. He's 3K. I mean, he's 3K and projects for over 20 fantasy points. So, there's no one else in the 3K range outside of guys from Dallas and Philly that will probably even see the floor, let alone, project anywhere close. So, definitely in play. Again, not a must. And I'm trying to get away a little bit from, all the scrubs and then both the studs, Durant and Jokic, just because I think it's going to be really hard to win that way. You're going to be fighting with too much of the field. That's why I like Philly. But Curry's certainly in play.
And this is interesting. Einstein asked us about Scotty Barnes. Do we like Scotty Barnes today? And what I'm going to look at here first, Scotty Barnes ownership. Scotty Barnes projected to be owned. I assume I'm going to be overweight to a lot of these expensive guys that the field isn't getting to. Scotty Barnes projected for 12% ownership. That's some ownership going there. Yeah, I do assume, though, I'm going to be a little bit overweight to the field on Scotty Barnes. A lot of these guys that are 5, 10% that are pay-up options that the field might not be getting to because all the people are playing one line or playing Jokic or playing Kevin Durant. Yeah, these are the guys Zion, 10%, Scotty Barnes, 11%, Jaren Jackson Jr., 9%. These are the guys I want to be overweight to differentiate some of my lineups. I like Scotty Barnes.
Especially for you, because two guys right in that range, Banchero and Kuzma, you're not playing. So it's just going to funnel you into more of the guys like Bane and Barnes and Jaren Jackson and Zion, as you mentioned.
I'm going to ask you something else now, because I'm about to run what I assume is going to be the final version of my lineups before lock. I already know what my answer is. But do you think, considering that we've had more news that's come out than maybe we thought would be available to us earlier, am I making a mistake by removing the first game of the slate from my lineups?
When you said that you were playing more Scotty Barnes than I thought you were, then I was thinking maybe he should sprinkle in a little bit of Banchero and Kuzma. But on the other hand, I think what we said earlier before the show is still apropos here. Like, you're not going to make a huge stand on them. So why even have that cluster in your lineups when you're trying to do the late swap stuff? I don't think there is like a right answer. I think you could make arguments both sides. How do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sticking with it, and I have these guys coming out of my player pool, especially because I know what happens if I leave these guys in. You get to stuff like somebody in chat who said, hey, I've got Gallo in some of my lineups. I don't need fucking Gallo in my lineups. There's other guys I want. And I know that those are the kinds of players that will end up making into some lineups. And I'd really rather play 0% of those guys than even 5 to 6 to 7%, because I really do want to be getting to as much of whatever value opens up later that could potentially end up showing up for us, because we don't know what it is going to be yet, but I know it's going to be something, and I still want to maintain that flexibility in my lineups. And the easiest way to have that is I basically have a blank slate for another 40 minutes, right? Where it's basically like the slate doesn't lock for me until 7:30. And the only thing I'm hoping for is somebody to just not break the slate in the first game.
Mm-hmm.
So here we go. Building out these lineups and see what pops up. Final version. We've got Iron Maiden 2 said thoughts on the main scores for the San Antonio Spurs with no Wemby. This is another funny kind of part of the slate. Wembanyama was ruled out earlier in the day. That seemed like that was going to be a pretty big value spot. And now we've gotten later on into the day, and we haven't even talked about the Spurs yet at all. Wemby, massive usage guy for this team. A lot of minutes to fill. You know, he's not playing like 40 or 36 a game, but still, you got to fill 30, 32 minutes. Are there any Spurs that you're prioritizing getting to without Wemby in there for them?
No. A murky situation. They all look better with Wemby out, but no one stands out, and they don't look nearly as good as Dallas or Philly. So, no, they're in a tough spot in New Orleans. I understand they're in play. Certainly, it's only 6 games, but no one is a priority like those other guys. Interesting that Paul Reed's up to about 20% ownership.
Yeah, so he has come up a little bit, but I mean, that's not anything that's going to deter me, is that kind of ownership.
No doubt.
You know, because to me, 5%, I thought he was way under owned. So I guess some other spots around the industry have started to up their expectations for Paul Reed a little bit. And that is why that he's come up to 20% as opposed to the 5% before. It's still a number I want to be overweight to, though. Let's see what else we have going on here. Some super chats that have come in. And this is from Orion for a FanDuel GPP. Sokan and McCollum or Suggs and Banchero. It is tough for me to get to CJ McCollum, who I still assume is going to be limited in some respects. But here's the other part too, is the other part of his question is Suggs or Banchero. And I've already said I don't really like playing the Magic, but CJ McCollum, I don't really have massively interest in, considering the lung issue he's coming back from. So I'm going to say Suggs and Banchero when that is the 2v2. But for yourself, Matt, Sokan and McCollum or Suggs and Banchero?
Definitely Suggs and Banchero. McCollum, I read, is not going to play tomorrow, but he'll still probably be a little bit limited tonight. And I will say, I think Orlando is probably going to end up being a little bit under-owned here, and they're facing Washington. So I have no issue with anyone that plays a Banchero, who was not good last time out, but really popular and not going to get love here. They don't look as good as these other teams, but they're still facing the Wizards.
Right. Let me just make sure that I don't have. Yeah. All right. I'm good here. Got my final version of lineups here. Final version for now, anyway. I'm going to be uploading before lock. And then I could look through this and I could tell you guys what I ended up doing with some of nothing's really all that much different about the guys that I was getting to before, just like minor tweaks to some of the projections we had on the site, which like 1-2% guys moving around a little bit. Nothing all that significant though. But more super chats we have to get here. This one is from Jake Lindland. Remove Boncaro from my FanDuel single entry from late swap. Cool. I don't have any kind of issue with that at all. And then James Magruder saying that he is Franz Wagner to single entry. Should he swap? In my opinion, yes. I would prefer to not have players from the first game on the slate, for me at least. And then his follow-up was that he's landing on Triple J in single entry. Should he swap? No, I don't have any issue with playing Jaren Jackson Jr. tonight.
No, perfectly in play.
The next super chat is from Luke Stone. Luke says that he currently has Jalen Brunson in his lineup. Should he find the $700 in salary to get to Kyrie, or is it okay to keep him in and be different? Jalen Brunson, what is your level of interest in him? I know for me, Kyrie Irving is an incredibly high priority play. So my answer is going to be play Kyrie over Jalen Brunson and find a way to get to Kyrie Irving.
100% agree. If Randall were out, I think the conversation changes. But Randall's in. Kyrie is underpriced for the role he's in tonight. So yeah, it's Kyrie easy.
If I could only play one player on the entire slate, you just give me all things considered, right? Like the price tag, the projection. I would tell you the one guy you want to prioritize the most on the slate is Kyrie Irving.
Yeah, I'm with that. I mean, he's just way too cheap for his role. Like, he's one of these alphas that has a guy who's better than him. So he's like the second guy. But when that first guy's out, like, he's a 50 to 60 fantasy point guy.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all maybe I would be surprised if he outscores Jokic, but I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Kyrie is the second highest scoring fantasy player on the slate. I think actually, if we look at projections,
he's projected as the second highest by a lot.
Yeah, he is projected by like 7 fantasy points over Kevin Durant.
That's crazy.
Actually, here's something I'll add to the conversation. We have Kyrie Irving closer to Nikola Jokic in projections than we have Kyrie Irving to Kevin Durant.
That's crazy to look at, but it just goes to your statement that Kyrie is like the ultimate priority on this slate. You're only not playing Kyrie to get different. And I think that's silly because on a projection, like, NBA is very projectable. There are certainly scenarios where he doesn't work out, but I mean, give me all the Kyrie.
I have Kyrie Irving in 84.3% of my lineups. So for me, Kyrie Irving, super, super high priority. Somebody will want to be getting to a whole bunch. Kyrie Irving, Jaden Hardy, Josh Green, talk about them as being like my tier 1 Mavericks players. That didn't end up changing for me. Then it's Seth Curry, Derek Jones Jr., Derek Lively. End up grouping those
Maxey out
together. There we go. Now Maxey is out just 2 minutes.
Batum out.
Batum out as well. But Batum was probable, if I'm not mistaken.
I like Covington a lot more now. Covington played like the entire second half. KJ Martin's now in play. The slate's crazy.
So, by the way, I'm gonna add in a plug here to Odd Shopper and the Discord channel. We got everything is bundled together as part of Odd Shopper. First, actually, it might have been the second bet I gave out today. I don't remember the order, but it's not important. This morning, I said the Sixers are gonna rule guys out. I didn't flat out call them pussies at the time because Mike Lawrence wasn't there, or else I would have. But I said that Joel Embiid isn't going to play today. They're going to be ruling guys out. So early in the day, we bet the Celtics money line at minus 230, I think was the number I got. They're probably like minus 500 now.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, this is not a game they should lose, clearly.
And if you guys want to sign up for Odd Shopper, sign up using the link below in the description box. If you use the promo code Greg, you are going to get 20% off. And in the Discord, you're going to get picks from myself, from Ben Raza, Eric Lindquist, all the guys, but also in addition to that, you get the plus EV betting model that we have as well over on the site. Super chat just came in from Hyperdime. Mo Bamba or Bassi on FanDuel? Interesting. Bamba or Bassi? I kind of want to see that starting lineup. I'm going to say Bassi for now, but I'll feel differently if Bamba starts.
Hey, here's a question for you. Down to the nitty gritty. With Batum out, Maxey out, and Embiid out, who do you like more now between Covington, Josh Green, and Derek Jones? Rank them.
Okay, wait, can you give me the names again?
Covington, Josh Green, and Derek Jones.
Covington, Josh Green, Derek Jones. I like Josh Green the most.
Fair.
I'll see what the starting lineup ends up looking like for both of these teams, but I'm very, very confident Josh Green starts. I don't really know exactly what's going to happen with some of the other guys, though.
Yeah, I'm with that.
We are at lock, by the way. We are here. Now it's time to start getting these starting lineups. And also with Maxey getting rolled out 2 minutes before the slate locked, it makes me even happier that I don't have exposure to that first game.
Yeah, 100% with that.
Did you end up playing anybody from the first game in your lineups?
No.
Nice. All right. Hopefully I didn't lead you astray. Maybe you were going to do it anyway, but
Yeah, like I said, I'm only playing one lineup tonight, and I like Banchero, but I'm with you. None of those guys are priorities, and I don't want to use up the roster spots.
let me see that updated line if we have one for Philly and Boston. Oh, let's see. Mike, how biased are you? Picking Philly to win tonight or Boston? All right. He's wearing a 76ers hat right now as he's picking the Celtics to beat the 76ers.
I wear the Sixers hat because I like the Sixers. That doesn't mean that I'm an idiot.
Well, in fairness,
to be fair,
things can be true. Multiple things can be true. Oh, we just got the 76ers starters. All right. Let's react to this. Patrick Beverley is in the starting lineup. D'Anthony Melton is in the starting lineup. Tobias Harris is in the starting lineup. Marcus Morris, B-Ball, Paul Reed starting at center. Let's fucking go. Paul Reed, I love it. I love it. I mean, like in general, is this giving the 76ers a realistic chance to win the game? No, probably not. But Paul Reed, I really, really want to be playing Paul Reed today. The question now becomes, who is our highest priority center? Is it Paul Reed? Is it Nikola Jokic? Is it Derek Lively? All things being considered with price point. If you guys are only playing one lineup, say, or maybe you're playing on FanDuel, I'm going to say DraftKings. My most roster center is going to be Paul Reed, followed by Nikola Jokic. On FanDuel, I'm still going to say Jokic is my favorite center overall. As much as I like Paul Reed, it does get a little bit more tricky on FanDuel, where we could only play one center. And then in addition to that, Paul Reed's a little bit more expensive. It's hard to find other guys to pay up for. So my favorite overall center on FanDuel, I'm going to tell you guys Nikola Jokic. On DraftKings, Paul Reed, followed by Nikola Jokic. You could easily play both of them in the same lineup. And Derek Lively is going to be a tertiary priority for me. I assume he's going to be the guy who, when I update everything here, I will have the third most exposure to at the center spot. Paul Reed 1, Nikola Jokic 2, Derek Lively 3 at DraftKings center. Do you have an order any different in terms of priorities for these guys, Matt?
I want to wait till ownership updates because I view them all so similarly, like based on their price points, etc. If Jokic is the least owned out of them, give me Jokic. I mean, it's Jokic. But like, I like Reed a lot. Kind of worried about his ownership now. Could see Reed becoming more popular than Lively, which would make me like Lively. So it's all like a, continuous pendulum, if you will.
Yeah, and then we've got Springer's coming off the bench. Somebody in chat was saying Springer is the play. And listen, I think he is somebody who could potentially end up making sense. We're going to see some, pretty significant updates in projections once we get everything updated for that starting lineup and some ownership as well. Let me look at some of our projections. And I mean, it just came out 30 seconds ago, so I don't presume that it's going to be updated yet. But when it is, we will certainly make sure to go ahead and answer that for you guys, looking at some of those updated projections. And once again, also want to shout out that we are sponsored by Sleeper today. And if you guys want to know the absolute safest play on the board, like Matt and I are telling you guys, like, hey, the Mavericks look good, Paul Reed looks good, but none of that looks as good as over 0.5 points for Zion Williamson over on Sleeper. So if you sign up using that link that we have below, you can go play at Sleeper. You're going to get a deposit bonus of up to $100. You're going to get access to being able to play Zion Williamson over 0.5 points, which, listen, I hesitate to call things a lock around here, but that's a lock. Zion Williamson over 0.5 points, that is a lock. He's going to score at least one bucket today. I wonder what the least amount of points Zion has scored in an individual game this year. You want to guess? I'll look it up.
Least amount of just straight up points, I'm going to say 16.
All right, pulling up his game log. Least amount of points Zion has scored in a game this year. It is actually 18. And he has scored at least 20 in all but 2 games the entire season. And the game he scored 18 in, by the way, he fouled out. That's it. I'm telling you, over 0.5 points. That's as safe as it gets. That is as safe as it gets. Are you going to have interest in Patrick Beverley?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I don't see how you couldn't. If I was saying earlier that Seth Curry's in play. I mean, he's projected for 27.5 DraftKings points, is 5th in our boom bust school right now. So yeah, I'm interested.
Updated projections. We have updated projections. Mike, can you throw up your Philadelphia 76ers projections for tonight? Do it for DraftKings first, and then we'll look at FanDuel afterwards. This is a fresh update from 58 seconds ago. 58 seconds ago, we got updates here. You're going to like Paul Reed even better after this, Matt, because I'm looking at it right now. I'll read it off here. All right, so we have Tobias Harris. Mike's got it on screen here now as well. So Tobias Harris is currently projected for 35.96 fantasy points, leading the team at $6,900, followed by Paul Reed, 33.72 is our updated DK projection on him at $4,700. DeAnthony Melton, 33.6 at $6,300. And then we got Patrick Beverley, 27.49 fantasy points projected for Patrick Beverley at $4K. Mo Bamba, 22.72 at $3,500. Marcus Morris, $3,800. He's projected for 22.16. Covington, 21.3, and then KJ Martin at 21.06. We only have Jaden Springer playing 15 minutes, so not really a great projection there on Jaden Springer. But, and I see, by the way, the Mavericks starter just came out. No real surprises there. Irving, Green, Derek Jones Jr., Grant Williams, Derek Lively. So that's all cool. Nothing we're going to have to majorly react to there. Looking at these projections we have for the 76ers, I'm thinking that there is a contrarian play we can make here, Matt. I'm wondering if you're thinking about the same guy I
am. I mean, it looks like as of right now, a bunch of these guys are coming in like low owned, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's a couple guys I could say here. I'm not sure who's the guy you're thinking of.
KJ Martin. KJ Martin's only $3,400, and we saw last game when it came to their big man rotation, like Mo Bamba was the first guy who came off the bench, but KJ Martin did check into the game before Paul Reed in that spot. Now we don't have to worry about that today because Paul Reed is actually starting, but they kind of prioritize getting KJ Martin minutes off the bench, and he is somebody I assume would be out there on the court in garbage time. So with that in mind, I mean, KJ Martin, $3,400. I think he's a value play that the field is just not going to be getting to. He's not somebody I want like 30% of or anything, but if I get to like 10% of KJ Martin, I think that's going to be overweight to the field and like a pretty interesting looking contrarian option. Is that something you get behind, or maybe you do like Jaden Springer or Robert Covington more?
This is kind of the problem. I do like Covington. He played a ton in the second half after Batum got hurt, but like Marcus Morris is starting again. They've got guys off the bench. They've got Bamba, Morris, Springer. Korkmaz played a little bit late. Like, I don't know. The higher the Philly ownership rises, the less I like them. And it looks like that's happening. They're all in play. But as I said earlier, I think Dallas still looks better. So this is a really tough one.
And we've got some questions that are coming into the Discord now, as well as a super chat here from Cully Boston. So we'll answer those in a second. But I first don't want to think I'm leaving any of the FanDuel guys hanging. So let's go and look at the FanDuel projections as well, Mike, and then filter by the Philadelphia 76ers, and we can react to some of those. By the way, shout out to Jordan Klein. Just finished a workout. I got the alert on my Apple Watch here. Jordan Klein, get it in. Good shit, man. I like when I get the updates that Jordan worked out.
So
anyway,
that's why I'm working.
Paul Reed. Yeah. Jordan's at the gym exercising. So you got to do the show. Paul Reed. So FanDuel projections, with it being a little bit different than DraftKings in terms of the scoring, and Paul Reed being somebody who puts up good defensive stats, we do have Paul Reed with the highest fantasy point projection of any player on the 76ers on FanDuel, 35.54 for Paul Reed, followed by 34.75 for Tobias Harris, DeAnthony Melton, 33.27. You gotta like all these guys on FanDuel at their price points. Paul Reed is somebody who, it's funny, like he projects better on FanDuel than he does on DraftKings because of the difference in scoring, but he's a higher priority for me on DraftKings because of the lower price and multiple centers to play. And overall, my favorite center to get to, we had Gator Nation 850 in the chat asked, on FanDuel, who do I like more, Jokic or Reed? If I was only playing one lineup, I would have Jokic in over Paul Reed for FanDuel. And then Tobias Harris, DeAnthony Melton. But I'll ask you that also now, Matt. Now that we know that Paul Reed is the starting center, if you were playing one FanDuel lineup, would you play Jokic at center on FanDuel? Would you play Paul Reed, or would you go to somebody else?
I think Jokic is the guy. I mean, Reed is a little more expensive there. It's the same as DraftKings though. Like him, Lively, and Jokic are the clear guys there, with Bamba being an interesting GPP pivot.
We've got let's see. I'll go to the super chats first. Coley Poston is saying one lineup in high dollar single entry. Should I start with Kyrie, Durant, and Jokic and not get to Tobias and Melton? Or do I drop one of the studs to get to Tobias and Melton? Yeah, so if I'm talking about how I'm prioritizing these guys, Kyrie, Durant, and Jokic are higher priorities to me than Tobias and Melton. Are we on the same page, Matt?
We are, but if everyone's starting their lineups with Kyrie, Durant, and Jokic, it funnels you into the Dallas value, really, because the Philly guys aren't 3K. The Dallas guys are. They're 3 to 4K. The Philly guys, the cheapest one is Beverly at 4K. But Reed is 4,700. Harris is obviously pricey. I'm not sure how ownership's going to pan out here, but that's going to tell the story for me.
Next question is from James Magruder. He says, should we play Hardy, although he is not starting, or swap? Hardy I was not expecting Hardy to start, which is also why our projections earlier, we were looking at it, we had him project for 30 minutes. It's not like we had Hardy projected for 36, and Matt and I were talking about how there's a range of outcomes with Hardy's minutes. This doesn't really substantially change how I view Jaden Hardy, because I didn't think he was going to start anyway. Do you feel differently, Matt, or is he somebody who you're less interested in now that he isn't starting?
No, he wasn't going to start. Maybe that makes his ownership go down a little bit, but I doubt it. Just interesting to see if they end up playing anyone before Hardy and Curry. What do you think about playing Hardy and Curry together, just based on their price points?
Yeah, no issue with Hardy and Curry being the same line. They're so cheap. I mean, if they each score 20 fantasy points, they could have shitty games to do that. And the starting lineup is not as important as the closing lineup. And the closing lineup is going to be whoever plays best over the course of the game. It's not going to be the same. It could be the same as the starters. If the starters come out and play well, that's who they'll stick with. But it doesn't have to be. And another thing I'll add, too, is if the game does get a little bit lopsided, Hardy's probably more likely to be playing in garbage time.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's see what else we have coming in here as far as questions. And guys, thanks for all the engagements in the questions today from the super chats and also the Discord. We do appreciate it. And if you guys could support the channel, you don't have to leave us questions or super chats. It could be as simple as just liking the video and subscribing to the YouTube channel. We just are happy that you guys are here, but also that's a little thing you could do that supports us and only take a half second of your time. My filler arc is saying that Jokic is Nurkic's anime rival. Okay, if you say so. And then he says, so Jokic and KJ Martin or Zion and Nurkic. So considering the opening part of the statement, Matt, Jokic is Nurkic's anime rival. All right, this is a fact. This is non-disputable. That we're already taking that into account. Now we're going to play Jokic and KJ Martin or Zion and Nurkic.
That's a really good one. Like,
don't forget to consider that they're anime rivals.
Man, give me Nurk and Zion, as crazy as that sounds. Like, I think there's better plays out there than KJ Martin. I like him as a contrarian if you're multi-entering, but in one lineup, I think there's better guys to go to.
Yeah, that is going to be, for me, KJ Martin and the Jokic combination.
Okay.
I don't know if you considered their anime rivals enough when you gave your answer there. I think that was the missing.
I did not. There
we go. See, that was the missing part. Cheers Brew is saying DK cash locks. He had 6 Mavs, but now do I play Philly? I think you should absolutely be playing Paul Reed in cash.
Yeah, easily.
Is there anybody else from Philly you consider a cash game lock for today? And do you consider Paul Reed a cash game lock in that same vein?
No, because you've got Lively and Jokic there. So those guys are pulling more ownership than him. Those guys would be probably the preferred cash game option. I'm not sure that that's how ownership actually lands, but based on our tools, that's all we can go on. So no one from Philly is a cash game lock at all. Like, they've still got bodies, which is the thing.
So who are you going to call the cash game locks for the slate then, per the other part of his question? Who are the guys that we think he absolutely should be playing in cash?
It's the 3 Dallas guys, Kyrie, Hardy, and Josh Green. You have to play them.
I still think you should be playing Jokic in cash. There's so much value on this slate. Just give me the save points.
Yeah, I'm with that.
Give me the save points in Jokic. I'm trying to think. How easy is it to fit in? How easy is it to fit in Kyrie, Durant, and Jokic. If possible, I think you want to play all three of them. But if you had to leave one of those guys out of a cash game, are you leaving out Durant? Are you leaving about? Are you leaving? We're gonna actually. I'm not even gonna introduce Kyrie in the cover. You're playing Kyrie in cash. Would you be more apt to leave Jokic or Durant out of a cash game lineup?
Jokic. Kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier. Like, yeah, I project him to score more, obviously, but the price tag, the position, all that, like Durant is the more must play for me. So kind of going full circle from the beginning of the show. You could play Reed and Lively and like, you know, spend up a little more elsewhere with a different build and not use Jokic. So that's how I see it.
Let's see what else we have, because I know the questions have been flowing today because it's a slate where there's definitely a lot going on. And also, as for cheaters, bro, if you're playing like, I don't want to play 6 Mavericks in a tournament. I don't have an issue with it in a cash game though, because cash, we're only caring about the floor. We don't care about the negative correlation or maximizing upside. And in fact, in some cases, negative correlation could be a positive in cash games because you're kind of locking in a floor in place for some ceiling. And we know that the Mavericks are going to have points from somebody. I don't have an issue with 6 Mavericks in cash games. Do you find an issue with that?
Definitely not. I think that that's like kind of the optimal build right now. I think it's going to be really popular in tournaments still. So it's going to be really hard to win that way, but it does project the best. So it's hard. It's hard to get away from it. No problem with it in cash games like at all.
Right. Let's see what we have coming into us from the Discord channel. This is a question here from C-Love. So C-Love, either C-Love or Clove, you know, but nobody knows for sure. I'm going to go with C-Love is what I usually say. What do we think of Springer / Beverly or Covington or Grant Williams / Curry? He already has 4 Mavs. If you already have 4 Mavs, I don't think you should be playing Grant Williams and Curry together to make it 6 Mavs.
I agree.
What do I think of Springer / Bev or Covington or Grant Williams, Curry? So I prefer Grant Williams and Curry to Springer and Patrick Beverly, but I don't think you should be playing 6 Mavericks in a tournament tonight.
So here's a question for you. Who do you prefer if you have to choose? Jaden Hardy, Josh Green?
I have so much of both of them, but I have a little bit more of Hardy, so that's going to be my answer.
Cool.
Got a question in here from Wimpy. Wimpy is asking us another 2v2. It is Bane and Curry or Triple J and Beverly. So Bane and Curry or Triple J and Beverly. That's Bane and Curry for me. And I think you had mentioned you like Bane as a kind of contrarian type pay-up option, right?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, so we're on the same page there. Bane and Curry. Jets World wants to know last man in 6,400 or under on DK. Position Jets World or just utility? I'm going to assume utility. Who do you like the most at 6,400 or under for a utility spot, Matt?
The answer to that probably right now is Melton.
Yeah, that's Melton for me as well. If you already have Melton in your lineup, which I think is a possibility. No, it's just Melton. The rest of the options are kind of terrible.
For sure.
Let's see what we have here. Clyde saying, kind of surprised we haven't discussed what value opens up for the Nuggets if both Gordon and Jamal sit. Is there no edge to be had in saving some salary for that outcome? To an extent, there could be, but like, I don't think, here's the problem, is not only do you need that value you need that news to actually happen, right? You need Aaron Gordon and Jamal Murray to sit. But on top of that, these guys are kind of priced up already because the team's been shorthanded. You would still need those guys to outperform the Philly value, to outperform the Dallas value. So I also am not, like, I think the most likely scenario is that Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon play. But that aside, I'm not reserving lineup spots for Denver. Is it something that you're considering?
No, it's the only game. Most of these games lock at 7:30, then 1 at 8, and then the Denver game. Makes me like Jokic more if those guys are out. But the other guys aren't really in play now because there's better value like all over the entire slate now with Philly and Dallas.
Even if those players are ruled out, I feel pretty confident in telling you guys that the Philly and the Dallas value is going to be better anyway.
Philly ownership has increased a lot.
Makes sense because Maxi's out now.
Wow, Reed 57% owned.
That's a lot higher than the 5% he was before he knew he was starting it.
Like now these guys are approaching Dallas ownership levels. Give me Dallas because they're cheaper. I think they're in a better spot. Yeah, this is just really interesting.
Yeah, I'm about to update everything for the most recent ownership. It's what is if you have it in front of you, what is KJ Martin's ownership?
KJ Martin is still 1.70% owned. We have him as actually the highest leverage play on the slate by a good amount. Like he looks really good from a leverage standpoint.
Yeah, I was going to be overweight to him either way, but that's good. Good confirmation bias for something that, some people say the Sims are in their head. I'm not going to go that far, but I was looking at the data. I was like, this is somebody who I want to be overweight to. All right, uploading my file here to the late swap tool. Start building out some lineups. But let's see what we have here. This question is coming to us from IC50. Who is our favorite player on the Suns other than Kevin Durant? Who is your favorite Suns player who is not Kevin Durant, Matt?
Nurk and or Goodwin. I like Nurk as a contrarian option. No Booker. They're going to need him offensively. Our tools like Booker or like Nurk a lot. It's just really hard to get there. It's set close to 7K. Goodwin looked really good before we got Dallas and Philly. There really is no one besides Durant.
There's nobody I'm prioritizing, right? So myself playing 150 lineups, I have some lineups that have Nurk. I have some Goodwin. But I'm going to tell you guys, if you're not mass entering, don't play Suns who are not Kevin Durant. There's no need.
I'm with you.
There's no need to today. I know it seems like there should be because Devin Booker's out and it opens up all kind of value, but everybody's out from every team tonight.
Like the thing is now, like Goodwin looked okay, but Patrick Beverly, who's 800 more now, projects higher than him. So like you can't really make a reasonable case other than no ownership to go to those guys.
Right. Late swap tool is running the final version of my lineups before the big lock in 8 minutes. We've got a question here from Iron Maiden 2 for a DK single entry. Jokic and Morris or Melton and KD, Matt? Melton and KD or Jokic and Morris?
Man, it's got to be KD and Melton. Like for me, it's just the wrong value plays with Jokic that the questions we're getting. Like I think the answer to that is really Jokic and another guy other than Morris. But if it's Morris, then it's the KD side for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and we've got a bunch of other questions that have come into the super chats as well. We're at 14 wants to know, can we play Goodwin over Rose, Lively, or even Reed? I would not play Jordan Goodwin over Jordan Reed, Derek Lively, or Derek Rose. Like if you're just going like of those guys, Goodwin's my least favorite.
Same. I think he's on the same level as Rose. Like both those guys are really hard to get to now. Like they're priced probably where they should be. Reed and Lively are too cheap. So yeah, I'm with you.
Right. Export my lineups here. Upload them to DK. And then I'm also going to look and see what has changed about the final version of my lineups. And I'll also let you guys know what has changed, if anything significant from the starting lineup. So I'm looking at my exposures here. And this is everything being taken into consideration. Our updated projections, updated ownerships, all of that kind of stuff. So before we had, and so this is not actually something that's changed per se, but I'm even with the field now on Paul Reed, but that's just because his ownership has come up so much. So before, like I thought I was going to be way over on Paul Reed, but now just kind of even with the field on him. I do have more of Nikola Jokic than Derek Lively, though. I've got Paul Reed 1 at center, Jokic 2, Lively 3. Actually, I'll just go position by position and kind of say what my breakdown ended up being. Point guard, it is Hardy 1 for me, Kyrie 2, Seth Curry 3. It's the exact same order at shooting guard because we got these guys all have point guard and shooting guard eligibility. Small forward, it's Josh Green 1 for me, Derek Jones Jr. 2, Tobias Harris 3. Power forward, Josh Green 1, Kevin Durant 2, Derek Jones Jr. 3, Tobias Harris 4, and then at center was Paul Reed 1, Nikola Jokic 2, Derek Lively 3. So that was the final breakdown that I got to of my lineups that I just uploaded onto DK, my final lineups there. Some more questions here coming to us in super chats as well as the Discord. We got Darren Unger saying last piece for FanDuel, Morris or Champagny, and he already has 3 players from Philly. I like Morris more than Champagny.
Yeah, same for sure. Excuse me, my voice, I guess, is going. It's what having a daughter and a stupid bad dog now does.
So it is. So for me yesterday, Matt, I was, by the end of the day, I was barely able to talk because I did 2 shows solo, which is then just me talking the entire time. We did the live before lock together also. And usually Thursdays, because I do 2 solo live shows, I'm not on the live before lock, but Lofty's away right now because his kid was just born. So I did that. But then also I was in meetings all day, and it was like meetings that I had to like lead and come up with the agendas and whatnot. So like I was barely able to talk by the end of the day. And that's something I didn't realize that I was this soft, but I get to the end of the day, I'm like, oh, my throat hurts. I'm like, I disgust myself. But anyway,
all right, at least it happened to the right person for me. Like, you feel my pain.
Yeah, I could relate to it. We've got in the YouTube chat here, Stan0302 is asking us Rose and Nurkic or Beverly and Jaylen Brown. I'm going to say, but none of those guys are like super high priorities for me. Let's see, Rose and Nurkic or Beverly and Jaylen Brown. I have more Rose than I have Beverly, and I don't have very much of Jaylen Brown. So I'm going to go with, based on my exposures, Rose and Nurkic. And then Jets World is asking us Sokan and Bane or Tatum and Lively on DK. I'm going to say Tatum and Lively. Tim Lee wants to know, is Hardy still playable for cash? Yeah, play Lively, play a Hardy in cash games. I have no issues with that. C Love is asking Reed and Martin or Green and Covington. That's Reed and Martin for me. How about you? Reed and Martin or Green and Covington? I didn't really get so much of Covington.
It's probably Reed and Martin, but I think you could make cases for both. Quick shout out to you on the show, on the Sohan call out last night. He balled.
It's funny, by the end of the shows, I don't even remember what I said on
I know.
I look at my line. But also everybody balled last night. Like, it was
True.
the highest scoring slate of the season. Because I was playing.
He was really good though. Like, it was still a good call even for last night.
Yeah, I was playing primarily on FanDuel, and like they have the projected fantasy points. I'm looking at my line, it's like, I've got lineups projected for 420 points. Like, this must end up being a really good night for me. And then I'm looking at the field, it's like, oh, but there's people around me projected like 450 fantasy points. Just absurdly high scoring last night. So you needed to have like the nuts on top of the nuts to do well last night. LeGrew, Seth Curry or Jaden Springer. That's Curry over Springer for me.
Yeah, easily.
Let me see. Did I end up with Springer like at all? I did not. Let me double check that. Yeah, I didn't end up with Springer lineups. Nope, no Springer lineups for me. It was hard to get to everybody. There's so many value plays tonight that I would be like 20% on a lot of other slates that I just didn't get to tonight because of how much value there is.
Especially with how it's been priced recently. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, final question so we get to this before the final game or the important game locks here. Bane and Melton or Tatum and Lively on DK. That for me, I feel like we answered one pretty similar to this before, but I am going to go, oh no, it was a different one. I'm going to say Tatum and Lively over Bane and Melton.
I'm going to go Bane and Melton, but I think it's really close. True toss-up.
And then also, let me go and check to see. I know that Owner's Box had a later start time today, and there have been slates with overlay there, and nothing too significant. But if you guys do want to chase some overlay, there are about 350 entries available over at Owner's Box. So that is something I know a lot of people from our site have signed up at Owner's Box. And don't forget, a little bit of overlay there to take advantage of if you guys are looking to get some extra action for tonight for that locks in about a minute here. So guys, that is going to do it for us. Thank you very much for watching. If you haven't done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hope you guys have a great night and a great weekend. See you back here on Monday.